Chapter 1327. Another 5 days passed in a flash. On this day, a group of people returned from the mountains outside of the village. The hunting team is back. Yay! There is meat to eat again. The kids cheered as they rushed out of the village. In every village, there would be a hunting team. Their mission was to go deep into the mountains to hunt down the beasts. Large villages would have more than 2 hunting teams. The Great Wind Village only had 100 families, and only dozens of people had fighting power. Therefore, there would only be 1 hunting team. Therefore, everyone would have to wait for the hunting team to come back. Sometimes, it would be half a month, and sometimes it would be 1 or 2 months. This period of time was the most torturous for everyone. The leader of the hunter squad, Feng Dachuan, was tall and sturdy. He had a domineering and awe-inspiring aura. Just like Feng Lai, he was also a supreme being. The Great Wind Village had a total of 3 supreme beings. One was the current village chief, one was the old village chief, and the last one was the leader of the hunter squad. Behind Feng Dachuan was a black hunting dog. It was a supreme level beast, the Black Wind Tyrant dog. In terms of value, it was only a bit weaker than the Sky Bear dog. Feng Lai brought the villagers out to greet them. Looking at the hunting team and seeing that there were still people, he asked, "It should be smooth this time, right? You guys are back so soon." The hunting team had gone out half a month ago. Feng Dachuan patted his chest and laughed, "Our luck is not bad. None of them died. With me, Feng Dachuan, there is nothing to be afraid of. As long as they are not dead." How was the harvest? Besides the casualties, Feng Lai was most concerned about the harvest. If the harvest was not good, then he would have to tighten his belt. But if the harvest was good, then he would be able to last for a long time without having to worry about not having enough meat to eat. "I told you, our luck is not bad. Look." The storage ring on Feng Dachuan's finger flashed with a dim light, and countless beast corpses appeared on the village road. These beasts' chi ranged from the 1st to the 8th sky of life and death realm. There were 58 of them in total. The wild god continent was not the same as the outside world. Their bodies were all very small. For example, Yi Chen's body could only maintain a height of 180 meters. The Sky Bear dog and the Black Wind Tyrant dog were also only 1.5 meters tall. Therefore, among the 58 beast corpses, the biggest was only a dozen meters long, which was a python. Alright, with so many dire beast corpses, it should be enough to last us for a month. The more powerful one's cultivation base was, the more meat one could eat. For example, a supreme expert could eat a huge amount of meat in a single meal. Moreover, it had to be the meat of a beast at or above the 7th layer of life and death realm. Below the supreme realm, even 100 emperors couldn't compare to a single supreme. As a member of the Great Gale Village, Yi Chen also had the right to get some meat, but he didn't want it. There were too many ominous beasts in the 5-element space, and all of them were emperor-level ominous beasts. It was enough for Yi Chen to eat for hundreds of years. Of course, he wasn't obligated to give his ominous beasts to the Great Gale Village. First, he didn't owe the Great Gale Village anything. Second, he could see that in the wilderness god continent, one must have meat to eat. Although there were many ominous beasts in the 5-element space, he wouldn't give them for free. "Feng Na, where did your family get the 3-hearted evil fish? If you have it, why didn't you offer it up?" Suddenly, a shout came from the village. It was Feng Dachuan's voice. Feng Na's sobbing soon followed. What happened? Yi Chen heard the voice and walked over. "Big brother Yi Chen." Seeing Yi Chen, Feng Na said in an aggrieved tone. "What happened?" Yi Chen asked. It turned out that Yi Chen had given Feng Na a 3-hearted evil fish last time. Feng Na ate 1% of it and gave the rest to her parents. In the following days, Feng Na didn't eat a single bite of meat. She only felt that she wasn't hungry at all, and her whole body was full of energy. She immediately knew that the meat Yi Chen gave her was not ordinary meat. Of course, she didn't think that it was an emperor-level vicious beast. Out of her childish nature, Feng Na secretly took some of the 3-hearted evil fish's meat for her other companions to eat. Among them were Feng Dachuan's children. After Feng Dachuan found out about this, he came to question them. It must be known that in the village, only Supremes could eat the meat of Emperor-level vicious beasts. The others weren't qualified to eat it. This wasn't hegemony, because Supremes wanted to maintain their power, so they had to eat the meat of high-level vicious beasts. After knowing the whole story, Yi Chen said to Feng Dachuan, "I was the one who gave her the three-hearted evil fish. Let's forget about this matter." Yi Chen wouldn't dislike the Great Wind Village's rules because of this. However, Feng Dachuan's attitude toward Feng Na made him a bit unhappy. Feng Na's parents were only normal life and death realm warriors. Under Feng Dachuan's yelling, they were shaking uncontrollably. They actually didn't know that it was a three-hearted evil fish, an emperor-level vicious beast. Outsiders, this is our Great Wind Village's rule. No one can violate it. Feng Dachuan frowned. He was still a bit scared of outsiders. Then what do you want? Yi Chen asked. According to the Great Wind Village's rule, anyone who violates it will be locked in a dark room for a month. Someone, take Feng Mu's entire family away. Feng Dachuan waved his hand and ordered. Wait. Yi Chen's face was a bit gloomy. This is my fault. If I knew about the Great Wind Village's rule, I wouldn't have given her the three-hearted evil fish. Since it was her first offense, a verbal punishment would have been enough. Why do you have to be so serious? Yi Chen didn't want to break the Great Wind Village's rule. No. Feng Dachuan was used to being a tyrant in the Great Wind Village. His words and actions were swift and decisive, and no one would dare to disobey him. Only Feng Lai and the old village head could talk to him. Don't go too far. Yi Chen said coldly. Outsiders, although you have joined the Great Wind Village, you have to know that as a member of the Great Wind Village, you cannot disobey the orders of the village head and the leader of the hunting team. How dare you? After all, outsiders were a legend, and this was the first time Feng Dachuan had met an outsider. The wilderness god continent was extremely vast, and even if there were outsiders here, there would only be a few of them. How could Great Wind Village have the chance to meet one? Thus, although he was wary of outsiders, he was not afraid of them, especially when his prestige was challenged. I remember that in the oath, there was only one rule about not killing the people of the Great Wind Village. It did not say anything about not disobeying. If there was such a rule, Yi Chen would not have made the oath. He was not an idiot. Brother Yi Chen, it is my fault. Don't worry about it. At this time, Feng Na suddenly said. Yi Chen shook his head. I only do things with a clear conscience. Whoever dares to take her away today, don't blame me for turning against you. You dare. Feng Dachuan's voice was low. Roar. The Black Wind Tyrant Hound beside Feng Dachuan suddenly jumped, pouncing at Yi Chen. Ah! Many people screamed in shock. The strength of the Black Wind Tyrant Hound was obvious to all. This was a supreme-level fierce beast with a fierce and cruel personality. Ordinary supreme beings would take a detour if they encountered a Black Wind Tyrant Hound. Woo woo woo, however, the next second, everyone was shocked. The powerful Black Wind Tyrant dog had its mouth covered by Yi Chen's hand and was lifted up into the air. Its 4 legs were struggling, looking like a little puppy, looking very pitiful. Chapter 1328. Bang! With a casual fling, the Black Wind Tyrant Hound was thrown out of the village. When it ran back into the village, it no longer dared to be presumptuous towards Yi Chen. As a ferocious beast, although its intelligence was not high, it could still sense the gap between them. When Yi Chen pinched its mouth, that terrifying power was like a vast ocean. Any explosion could probably crush it to death. Yi Chen's eyes swept across the crowd and finally landed on Feng Dachuan. He said word by word, with my strength, it is not difficult to sweep the Great Gale Village. You are not my opponent. You. Feng Dachuan glared. Enough, Dachuan. This matter is indeed not Feng Na's fault. Why make things difficult for her? Feng Na, this is a lesson. You should know the rules of the Great Gale Village. At this moment, Feng Lai walked over with the Starry Sky Bear Hound. The Starry Sky Bear Hound licked the fur of the Black Wind Tyrant Hound and looked at Yi Chen with fear. Yes, village chief. Feng Na lowered her head and said. Rubbing Feng Ne's head, Feng Lai said to Yi Chen apologetically, "Brother Yi Chen, Dachuan is not a bad person. He is just a little inflexible. I hope you don't mind." Although Yi Chen's words were arrogant, Feng Lai was not angry. Instead, he was a little happy. Although the Black-Winged Tyrant Hound only had the strength of a normal supreme being, this was the Huang God continent. Under the cover of the Huang God's law, the gap between supreme beings had shrunk a lot. Yi Chen could easily subdue the Black-Winged Tyrant Hound, which meant that he was much stronger than he had imagined. "I won't mind. I just hope that the rules of the Great Gale Village will be more humane," Yi Chen said. "That is for sure." After saying that, Feng Lai looked at Feng Dachuan with a look of reproach. The Great Gale Village's rules were actually not that strict. They did not care about human feelings at all. This time, most of the fault was on Feng Dachuan's shoulders. It seemed like he needed to be taught a lesson. Feng Dachuan's face alternated between green and white. Originally, he had wanted to consolidate his prestige and not take even half a step back when facing the people from the outside world. But now, the result was the complete opposite. His prestige had fallen to the ground. No matter where one was, the rule of the strong was an unchanging truth. He could berate Feng Na and his family, but he didn't dare to berate Yi Chen. Just now, Yi Chen had easily restrained the Black-Winged Tyrant Hound with his powerful strength, and it had left a lingering fear in his heart. A week had passed since the three-hearted evil fish incident. In the chief's yard, Feng Lai, the old chief, Feng Dachuan, and Yi Chen were chatting while eating barbecued meat. The meat was provided by Yi Chen. The eclipsing moon ancient cow's meat is really good. This kind of meat is usually only eaten by the tribe's supremes. Feng Lai took a large piece of beef and ate it in big bites. The old chief nodded. "The tribe has a large population and a lot of fighting power. We can organize 2 or 3 hunting teams to take turns to enter the mountain. Our Great Gale Village will be satisfied with just enough food and clothing." Listening to the contents of the two's conversation, Yi Chen's heart was moved. He thought, why don't we help the Great Gale Village and let it become a tribe? The stronger the Great Gale Village is, the more help it will be to me. I help the Great Gale Village, and then the Great Gale Village will help me. This Huangshan continent is so vast, there must be a place for the Great Gale Village. "Brother Yi Chen, come, let me toast you. What happened last time was my fault, I hope you can forgive me." Feng Dachuan raised his wine cup and toasted Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled and said, "We are all supremes, let the past be the past. What is in front of us now is the future." The old ginger was still spicier. The old chief could hear the hidden meaning in Yi Chen's words, so he couldn't help but ask, "What is the future?" Yi Chen looked at the three of them and went straight to the point. "Do you want the Great Gale Village to become a tribe? Let the Great Gale Village become a tribe." Feng Lai's eyes lit up, but they quickly dimmed. A first-rank tribe needs 1,000 to 2,000 households, and at least 7 or 8 villages have to be conquered. This is not an easy matter. Feng Dachuan also said, "The bigger the village, the more supremes there are. The Purple Thunder Village, which is the closest to us, has 200 households and 5 supremes. We should thank the heavens if they don't find trouble with us." In the Huangshan continent, no one was willing to be conquered, because if they were conquered, their status would not be as high when they went to someone else's territory. The old chief's understanding of Yi Chen's words was obviously higher than Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan. He hesitated and said, "Little brother Yi, do you want our Great Gale Village to become a tribe?" "Yes." Yi Chen nodded. Hearing this, Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan finally recovered. If they had Yi Chen's help, it was possible for the Great Gale Village to become a first-rank tribe. However, they did not know what level Yi Chen's strength was. "Great, with little brother Yi's help, the rise of our Great Gale Village is just around the corner. Come, cheers." The old chief did not look old, and he looked to be in his 60s. In the Great Gale Village, the old chief was the #1 expert, and he was stronger than Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan. At this moment, he held his cup and stood up. "Cheers! Cheers!" The 4 of them stood up and toasted. Sometimes, plans could not keep up with changes. Just as the Great Gale Village was about to attack the Purple Thunder Village, The Purple Thunder Village attacked the Great Gale Village first. Outside the Great Gale Village, there were 60 to 70 people gathered. The 5 people leading them were all supremes. The purple-haired old man in the middle shouted, "Feng Baixiong, come out and surrender." Feng Baixiong was the old chief's name. "Lei Haotian, you are really bold. Do you think there is no one in my Great Gale Village?" The old chief led 30 to 40 people out of the village. Whether it was the outside world or the Huangshan continent, the higher one's cultivation base, the harder it was to give birth. In the Huangshan continent, the difficulty of giving birth was 100 times higher than in the outside world. This made it very difficult for the population to develop. However, there were quite a lot of experts. In an ordinary village, 1/10 of them had a cultivation base of life and death 7th layer or above. These people were known as members with battle prowess. The others were usually not allowed to leave the village. Just these few people, and you have the nerve to send them out. The purple-haired old man laughed heartily. Battle prowess does not depend on numbers, but also on quality. The old chief said meaningfully. "Quality? Ha, then let me see your quality." The purple-haired old man's aura burst out. Battles between villages mainly depended on the Supreme's victory. If the Supremes on both sides were evenly matched, then the outcome would depend on the people below. "Everyone, be careful." The old chief was quite confident. Although they only had 4 Supremes on their side, in his opinion, Yi Chen alone could fight against 2 or 3 of them. "It's been a long time since we had a big battle." Feng Dachuan licked his lips. "You don't need to do anything. It's too much of a waste of time." Yi Chen stopped the 3. "Little brother Yi, what are you doing?" The old chief was confused. Yi Chen said, "I alone am enough." It was not that Yi Chen was arrogant, but he really did not put the Purple Thunder Village in his eyes. Conquering the Purple Thunder Village as soon as possible and building a bigger village was his top priority. After saying these words, Yi Chen walked out step by step and raised his head. "You 5, come at me together." "Arrogant. I, Lei Yu, will teach you a lesson." A middle-aged man from the Purple Thunder Village pounced at Yi Chen with a mace in his hand. As he waved the mace, his aura seemed to be able to split heaven and earth. Chapter 1329. Lei Yu was the 4th strongest in the Purple Thunder Village, but in terms of toughness, he was ranked 2nd. This was because his body's defense was extremely strong. The Desolate race placed a lot of emphasis on training their bodies. Whoever had a stronger defense would have an advantage. Lei Yu raised his mace with both hands and swung it down crazily. Feng Lai and Feng Dachuan's eyebrows twitched. If they were in Yi Chen's shoes, they would definitely dodge. But Yi Chen's action shocked everyone. He stretched out his right hand and easily blocked the mace. The spikes on the mace didn't even pierce through the skin of Yi Chen's palm. "Get lost." Yi Chen waved his hand, and the mace bounced back, landing on Lei Yu's head. Blood started to flow out of his mouth as he was blown thousands of meters away. "Who else wants to fight?" Yi Chen looked at the purple-haired old man. "Little brother, who are you? I don't remember you in the Great Wind Village." The purple-haired old man Lei Haotian said seriously. "According to you, I am an outsider." Yi Chen said lightly. "An outsider?" Everyone's complexion changed. There were too many legends about the outsiders. It was said that many tribes weren't tribes in the past, and relied on outsiders to rise. Although not every outsider was as powerful as them, the strength of outsiders was still widely spread. Hearing Yi Chen say that he was an outsider, the Purple Thunder Village's sovereign felt bitter in his heart. Soon after, he felt a trace of jealousy. "Why didn't our Purple Thunder Village meet outsiders?" "Little brother, with your power, joining the Great Wind Village is a waste of your talent. Why don't you join our Purple Thunder Village? I can guarantee that other than being the village head in name, you will have the same power as the village head." The purple-haired old man wanted to poach Yi Chen. If they fought, the Purple Thunder Village might not be Yi Chen's match. "Oh, the conditions are very good." Yi Chen smiled. "Little brother Yi, whatever the Purple Thunder Village is willing to offer, We, the Great Wind Village, are also willing to offer. Plus, if you have any other ideas, just tell us. The old village leader was anxious. Once Yi Chen left, their Great Wind Village would definitely be conquered by the Purple Thunder Village. Feng Baixiong, water flows downwards, and people strive to climb higher. What you are doing is not kind. The purple-haired old man coldly snorted. Little brother Yi. The old village head looked at Yi Chen eagerly. On the other side, the purple-haired old man said expectantly, "What do you think?" Yi Chen shook his head and said, "There's no rush. Let's defeat you first." The purple-haired old man's face turned cold. "You're not going to reconsider? Today, it's your Violet Thunder village that invited me. Tomorrow, it'll be an even bigger village that invited me, or even a first-grade tribe. What do you think I should do?" I, Yi Chen, am not a fickle person. In fact, Yi Chen had bigger considerations. Although Gale Village's influence was very small, Gale Village at least relied on him. If it was a tribe, Yi Chen's reputation would not be comparable to that of a tribe's chief even if he worked himself to the bone. He believed that most of the people who came to the Wilderness God continent before had the same idea as him. They wanted to help a weak village grow into a tribe step by step. That way, they would have more control. If that's the case, then I'll offend you. Let's attack together. The purple-haired old man was not an inflexible person. Since Yi Chen had asked them to attack together, there was no need for them to be polite. The four Supremes attacked Yi Chen from 4 different directions. For different domains covered the space where Yi Chen was. At this moment, even if the old village head and the other 2 wanted to intervene, it would be difficult. The domains are too weak. Yi Chen could see that the desolate race focused on body tempering, so they were much weaker in terms of domains. Just like the body-tempering kings in the outside world, domains were their weakness. The sword domain, which had been activated by the sword Yuan, burst out fiercely, instantly turning semi-tangible. When the 4 great domains clashed with the sword domain remained unmoved, while the 4 great domains began to shake. Fighting 1 against 4, Yi Chen had the absolute upper hand. The faces of the 4 Purple Thunder Village Supremes changed several times. Eat my yin-yang blade. Thunder strike. 4-directional thunder kick. Dominating sky axe. The 4 Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village each used their own killing moves. They didn't believe that Yi Chen could fight against the 4 of them by himself. Dang, 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 dang. Sparks flew everywhere. Everyone was dumbfounded. The killing moves of the Purple Thunder Village's 4 Supremes landed on Yi Chen's body, but they couldn't even leave a scratch on Yi Chen's skin. Sparks flew everywhere, shaking the palms of their hands until they were numb and bleeding. On the other hand, Yi Chen didn't even crease his brows, as if it was just a light breeze, not worth mentioning. Swish. Stretching out his right hand, Yi Chen instantly grabbed the neck of a Supreme's. He exerted strength in his hand, causing the Supreme's face to turn red. No matter how he struggled, it was useless. Do you still want to fight? Yi Chen said with a slightly domineering tone. Not anymore. The purple-haired old man was disappointed. How could they fight? The opponent's defense was too high. They could not break it at all. If they continued, they would only be humiliating themselves. Throwing away the Supremes of the Purple Thunder Village, Yi Chen said, "You guys join the Great Wind Village. Discuss the details with the old village chief." Just like this, the Great Wind Village conquered the Purple Thunder Village. The population of the village increased from more than 100 households to more than 300 households, nearly 1,000 people. In the following month, the Great Wind Village was unstoppable, conquering one village after another. Ironstone Village, Doublewood Village, Blackwater Village, Gaoshan Village. Finally, the population of the Great Wind Village exceeded 1,000 households and was qualified to be named a tribe. Little brother Yi, what do you think the name of our tribe should be? In the village that had expanded 10 times, the old village chief looked excited. In just a month, the Great Wind Village became a first-class tribe. This was simply a miracle. Of course, the biggest contributor was Yi Chen. Without Yi Chen's powerful force, they could not even conquer the Purple Thunder Village. Instead, they would be conquered by the other party. Old village chief, of course it should be called the Gale tribe. Fong Darchuan quickly said. The old village chief glared at Fong Darchuan. He also wanted the tribe to be called the Gale tribe, but this tribe was conquered by Yi Chen. Yi Chen had the right to name it. They did not want to part ways with Yi Chen. Yi Chen promised them that they could stay in the Great Wind Village for a few more days. At the conference table, the supremes of the Purple Thunder Village, Ironstone Village, Doublewood Village, Blackwater Village, and other villages had bitter expressions. After joining the Great Wind Village, their status was lower than the supremes of the Great Wind Village. They had a certain right to speak, but the effect of their words was minimal. Yi Chen said, "It's not appropriate to call it the Gale tribe." Why? The old village chief was puzzled. Yi Chen looked at the other supremes and said to the old village chief, "The Great Wind Village is getting stronger and stronger, but the original population of the Great Wind Village is too small. There are also few supremes. I can convince the others if I am here, but what if I am not here?" Old village chief, what Brother Yi Chen said is reasonable. On the side, Feng Lai nodded. The old village chief thought for a moment and felt that it was reasonable. The Great Wind Village relied on Yi Chen to become a tribe. If Yi Chen was not here, the others would not dare to disobey him because of the oath, but his control was also limited. Once the other tribes attacked, this delicate situation was very dangerous. A first-class tribe is not our ultimate goal. I think the name of the tribe can be called the Eternal Tribe. The most powerful person in the Eternal Tribe is the chief, followed by the elders, the leader of the hunting team, and so on. The chief will be the old village chief. The old village chief was still very strong. Apart from Yi Chen, among the supremes, he was at least in the top 3. It was a bit inappropriate to let Feng Lai be the chief. After all, this was a tribe, not a village. As for the name Eternal Tribe, the supremes of the other villages accepted it more easily. In any case, they had become elders and had a lot of power. In the past, they were just thugs. Chapter 1330. The Eternal Tribe had a population of 3,500 people and 1,050 families. The leader was Feng Baixiong and the Eternal Venerable Yi Chen. Below him were the elders and the leader of the hunting squad. Of course, the Eternal Tribe was still in its embryonic form. Once the tribe became more powerful, other positions would be added. As an Eternal Venerable, Yi Chen's authority was equal to Feng Baixiong's, perhaps even a bit higher. The leader had to take care of a lot of matters, while Yi Chen didn't have to be so troublesome. The hunting squad is back. So much meat. The Eternal Tribe was prospering day by day, and the tribesmen naturally didn't have to worry about not having meat to eat. At present, the Eternal Tribe had a total of 8 hunting squads, taking turns to enter the mountains. Once the first squad returned, the next one would immediately set off. This way, even if they encountered an enemy attack, they would still have the greatest fighting strength. Old Chief, the Eternal Tribe is too remote. It's time to migrate. Yi Chen still liked to call Feng Baixiong Old Chief. Feng Baixiong nodded. Yeah, there are no more villages around. It's time to migrate. Migration was very simple. They only needed to store the buildings in the village into their storage rings. The Wild's God continent was enveloped by the Wild's God's laws, and everything was shrouded in mist. It was extremely difficult to draw a map, and it took them an entire month to find an ideal place to live. Fortunately, the villages had stockpiled meat, and they had not stopped eating meat for the past month. Mountains and rivers. It's here. What entered everyone's eyes was a mountain range and a huge lake. The mountain range was vast, and the lake was crystal clear. The Eternal Tribe would certainly prosper here. Dong. Dong. Houses fell one after another, spreading out in a ring shape. The entire Eternal Tribe was like a ring. Soon after, the Supremes joined hands to arrange a formation. The reason why the tribe was powerful was because of the many Supremes and the formations they arranged. It would be difficult for enemies to break in, and the tribesmen could safely reproduce inside. From now on, this will be our new home. Feng Baixiong sighed with emotion. The other Supremes also sighed with emotion. Although they had been conquered by the Great Wind Village and were now elders or leaders of the Eternal Tribe, no matter what, a tribe was a tribe. As a member of the tribe, their fate was closely related to the tribe. They were bound together for good or bad. The arrays that Yi Chen had set up were the Immortal Sword Array and Destruction Sword Array. Although he wasn't proficient in arrays, the Immortal Sword Intent and Destruction Sword Intent were too powerful. A sword array that contained the Immortal Sword Intent and Destruction Sword Intent would be able to block a Super Sovereign for a while. Anyone below the Super Sovereign realm would be severely injured even if they didn't die. The formation did not restrict the people of the Eternal Tribe. They could enter and leave at will. This was the power of the oath. The Eternal Tribe was surrounded by mountains and rivers, which meant that in the future, there would be not only land meat to eat, but also aquatic meat to eat. The more the people of the Eternal Tribe looked at it, the more they liked it, and soon they forgot the melancholy of leaving the place where they grew up. In the Eternal Tribe, the sounds of laughter could be heard every day, and the figures of children could be seen everywhere. Outside the tribe, a hunting team was hunting aquatic beasts in the lake, while another hunting team was in the mountains, hunting terrestrial beasts. Yi Chen had a clear plan for the tribe's development. It was very simple, and that was to accumulate food. Only with more meat would the tribe's development not be limited. The fertility of the desolate race was also related to the meat they ate. Being full for one meal and hungry for another made it hard for them to give birth. This was because once there was no meat to eat, their strength would decline, and once their strength declined, where would they have extra yuan qi to reproduce? It should be known that the desolate race's people were born with astral reaching or even Sea of Soul realm cultivation base, which consumed a lot of yuan qi. Hunting geese all day long, there would be a time when geese would peck you blind. The second hunter squad that entered the mountains had met with a mishap. Dozens of Emperor Realm warriors and 2 Supreme Realm warriors had died. The specific situation was that on the 12th day, the second hunter squad encountered a space bear dog. The leader of the second hunter squad cared a lot about the space bear dog and wanted to tame one. Therefore, he ignored the others' advice and risked everything to hunt the space bear dog. Who knew that this space bear dog was not a normal one, but an extremely rare space bear dog king, possessing the bloodline of the space bear dog. After being enraged, the space bear dog king went on a killing spree, killing the second hunter squad's leader and dozens of Emperor Realm warriors. If it were not for the fact that the Space Bear Dog King was not as murderous as the other beasts, the second hunter squad might have been completely wiped out. Space Bear Dog King. This time, I'll lead the team. You guys lead the way. Yi Chen's interest was piqued. He had always wanted a Space Bear Dog, and now that a Space Bear Dog King had appeared, he naturally wouldn't let it go. He prepared to let the lucky survivors of the second hunter squad lead the way. Sir, you can't, it's too dangerous. A supreme being tried to dissuade him. The Space Bear Dog King was equivalent to a supreme being, and its physical defense was extremely strong. It was not something an ordinary Space Bear Dog could compare to. If something were to happen to Yi Chen, their Eternal Tribe's future would not be as good as before, and they might even be conquered by other tribes after a period of time. There's no need to stop me, I know what I'm doing. Yi Chen had already made up his mind. Since that's the case, it's better for Sir to be careful. Feng Baixiong knew Yi Chen's personality. If he continued to stop him, he would only make him unhappy. The next day, Yi Chen led the remaining members of the second hunter squad and set off. In the mountains, clouds and smoke lingered, and the range of soul power was only a few miles. Fortunately, Yi Chen had the Netherworld Saint Eye, which allowed him to see a few thousand miles away. Sir, it's this direction. A member of the second hunter squad pointed to the front. After 3 days, Yi Chen and the others arrived at the place where the Space Bear Dog King appeared. It's here. The members of the second hunter squad were a little nervous. They looked around, afraid that the Space Bear Dog King would suddenly appear. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Yi Chen patted the shoulder of one of them. Standing at a high place, Yi Chen looked around. Suddenly, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Originally, he thought that the Space Bear Dog King should have left this place. He didn't expect to find its lair 800 miles away. The Space Bear Dog King was very sensitive. It seemed to have discovered something and jumped out of its lair. However, no matter how sharp its eyes were, it couldn't detect anything strange. Shaking its head, the Space Bear Dog King went back to its lair to sleep. Not long after, Yi Chen and the others arrived at the outside of its lair. Roar! The Space Bear Dog King jumped out. It was much taller than the normal space bear dogs, as tall as a human. Its brownish-yellow fur was luxuriant and had a metallic luster. On its forehead, there was a shallow golden mark. If one didn't look carefully, it would be hard to notice the existence of the golden mark. It was normal that the leader of the second hunter squad didn't notice it. Its hexagram eyes glanced at Yi Chen. The Space Bear Dog King lowered its body and growled, preparing to launch a fierce attack at any time. What a great Space Bear Dog King! One of you is better than 100 Space Bear Dogs. Yi Chen laughed and walked towards the Space Bear Dog King. A strong wind swept across. The Space Bear Dog King made the first move and pounced towards Yi Chen. Its sharp claws expanded in the air, reaching 5 feet long. The leader and deputy leader of the second hunter squad were torn to pieces by its claws. Chapter 1331. If Yi Chen was just a beginner-level sovereign, he would definitely retreat when facing the pounce of the starry Sky Bear Dog King. Ferocious beasts and intelligent life forms were different. Their every move contained the mysteries of the heavens. Many supreme martial arts were created based on ferocious beasts. However, Yi Chen wasn't a beginner-level sovereign. Even without the Sky Sword, Yi Chen still had the strength of a medium-level sovereign. In addition to the immortal sword physique that could block the attacks of a peak-level sovereign, there was no need to fear the starry Sky Bear Dog King. Clang! Raising his hand, Yi Chen blocked the starry Sky Bear Dog King. Yi Chen's hands were comparable to sovereign weapons. They were unimaginably sturdy. Roar! The starry Sky Bear Dog King's claw missed, so it stretched its neck and bit towards Yi Chen's neck like lightning. Each of its sharp teeth was half a foot long, especially the 2 pairs of fangs. They were 8 inches long and flashed with a cold light. If one was bitten, even a normal sovereign weapon would have a few bite marks. Although Yi Chen wasn't afraid of the opponent's bite, he wasn't willing to be bitten on the neck. With a kick, the starry Sky Bear Dog King was kicked tens of meters away. Swish! Without giving the opponent a chance to react, Yi Chen took a step forward and instantly rode on the starry Sky Bear Dog King. His left hand grabbed onto the opponent's fur and his right hand clenched into a fist. The starry Sky Bear Dog King felt dizzy. These 2 punches from Yi Chen didn't contain any ordinary force, but the terrifying 6 drive. 4 drive could normally shatter atoms, 5 drive could shatter neutrons, and 6 drive could shatter black holes. Of course, black holes came in all sizes. Against a large black hole, even Yi Chen couldn't do anything. The pain from the beating stimulated the starry Sky Bear Dog King's ferocious nature. Exerting force from its 4 limbs, the starry Sky Bear Dog King suddenly stood up and sent Yi Chen flying. As expected of the starry Sky Bear Dog King, Yi Chen estimated that the starry Sky Bear Dog King's strength was roughly equivalent to a medium-level sovereign. Even a high-level sovereign wouldn't be able to subdue it. One had to be 2 levels higher. The supremacy is too strong. He's actually suppressing the starry Sky Bear Dog King. We have underestimated the Venerable One. As an outsider, the Venerable One definitely has many tricks up his sleeves. We can't see through him. The members of Hunter Team 2 discussed among themselves. Looks like I'll have to take out the Heaven Sword. Dusting off the dust on his clothes, Yi Chen placed his right hand on the hilt of the Heaven Sword. Chong! The Heaven Sword was pulled out, and a peerless sword chi shot out. The fur of the Space Bear Dog King stood up as it felt an intense threat. Whoosh! Out of everyone's expectations, the starry Sky Bear Dog King turned around and fled at lightning speed. Where are you going? How could Yi Chen let his opponent escape? His figure blurred, and when he reappeared, he was already at the right side of the starry Sky Bear Dog King. Yi Chen didn't use the edge of his sword to attack his opponent. With a shake of his hand, Yi Chen's sword struck his opponent. Crackle! The might of the heaven sword was so strong that the starry sky bear dog king was sent flying, smashing a hole in the mountain on the left, causing dust to fill the air. Without waiting for the other party to come out, Yi Chen leaped into the hole. Rumble! Another loud sound could be heard. Not long after, the sound calmed down. Will the Venerable be all right? The members of Hunter Team 2 were very nervous. In the hole, Yi Chen's left hand pressed on the head of the starry sky bear dog king, which was dizzy from the heaven sword's attack. He threatened, "Don't struggle, or else you will suffer." The starry sky bear dog king seemed to understand. After struggling for a while, it gave up resisting. In order to tame a ferocious beast, one naturally had to brand a soul imprint in the other party's soul ocean. The stronger the soul imprint, the higher the other party's loyalty. Not to mention anything else, Yi Chen was very confident in his own soul. The Netherworld Sacred Eye even allowed his soul to have the will of hell, which was not to be disobeyed. Very quickly, Yi Chen branded a complete soul imprint in the starry sky bear dog king's soul ocean. This wasn't the end. Yi Chen added a restriction on the soul imprint. Once the starry sky bear dog king tried to use its soul power to erase the soul imprint, it would be countered by the restriction. After doing all this, Yi Chen released the starry sky bear dog king. "Get up!" Yi Chen ordered. Woo woo woo! The starry sky bear dog king crawled up from the ground like a puppy. It stuck out its tongue and licked the sole of Yi Chen's foot while wagging its tail. "In the future, I will call you Sky Splitter." Yi Chen thought for a moment and gave the starry sky bear dog king a name. The starry sky bear dog king's claws were very sharp and could tear the heaven and earth apart. When Yi Chen and the starry sky bear dog king jumped out of the hole, the members of the second hunter squad cheered. The Venerable was their eternal tribe's #1 expert. Together with the starry sky bear dog king, who could stop them? It was rare to tame the starry sky bear dog king, so Yi Chen brought it out to hunt. The starry sky bear dog king was indeed worthy of being called the starry sky bear dog king. Its hunting ability was quite impressive. Yi Chen didn't make a move and just watched from the side. In just a day's work, more than 100 ferocious beasts had been hunted. In the Eternal Tribe, everyone cheered. It was said that whoever tamed the starry sky bear dog king would have the qualifications to rule the wilderness god continent. Although this legend might not be true, it was undoubtedly very encouraging. Venerable, the new map has been drawn. The closest tribe to us is the second-rank tribe, the Golden Sand tribe. The old village chief gave a map to Yi Chen. There was a red dot on it with the Golden Sand tribe written on it, and the black dot represented the Eternal Tribe. Golden Sand tribe? Yi Chen frowned. To be able to become a second-rank tribe, the tribe would have at least 2,000 households, which was several times more than the Eternal Tribe. At the very least, the number of sovereigns would be several times more. Fortunately, it wasn't a third-rank tribe. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't be sure that the Eternal Tribe would be able to stop and conquer the other party. Who knew if the other party had any powerful experts? As long as there were 3 or 4 high-level sovereigns, it would be difficult for Yi Chen to defeat the other party, let alone break the other party's formation. At the same time, in the Golden Sand tribe. "Chief, we've already investigated. The new tribe is called the Eternal Tribe, a first-rank tribe." The Golden Sand tribe's main hall was packed with people. Sitting in the main seat was a yellow-haired middle-aged man with a majestic aura. A mere first-rank tribe dares to call themselves eternal? How ambitious. The yellow-haired middle-aged man snorted coldly. "Chief, give me 1/3 of the troops. I, Jin Hu, am confident in conquering the Eternal Tribe." A skinny middle-aged sovereign walked out and volunteered. The Golden Sand tribe had a total of 3,800 households, and there were more than 1,000 people who could fight. 1/3 was already a lot. Even a lion uses its full strength to catch a rabbit. "Jin Hu, lead half of the troops and set off. I'll wait for your good news in the tribe." The Golden Sand tribe's chief felt that 1/3 of the troops wasn't enough. "I won't disappoint you." Jin Hu's face lit up. After he conquered the Eternal Tribe, he could choose a few more women to be his concubines and bear children for him. Such a good thing could only be encountered by chance. My Golden Sand tribe can finally be promoted to a third-rank tribe. The Golden Sand tribe's chief was very happy. He picked up his wine pot and drank. Chapter 1332. The Golden Sand tribe is invading. Combat personnel, get ready. The rest of you, stay in the tribe. The Golden Sand tribe's attack came earlier than Feng Baixiong had expected. It was no wonder. The Golden Sand tribe was a second-class tribe, while the Eternal tribe was a first-class tribe. In the eyes of the enemy, the Eternal tribe was undoubtedly a piece of juicy meat. The earlier they swallowed, the earlier they could feel at ease. On the plains beside the lake, the Golden Sand tribe's troops gathered together. At a glance, there were 45 Supremes, while the Eternal tribe only had 25. There were 20 more Supreme beings, a great disparity in numbers. I'm the third elder of the Golden Sand tribe, Marquis Jin. Today, I'm here to conquer your Eternal tribe. If you know what's good for you, quickly surrender to prevent any casualties. Marquis Jin was clad in golden armor and wielded a large blade. I am the venerable of the Eternal tribe. I advise the Golden Sand tribe to surrender as soon as possible. Yi Chen and the Starry Sky Bear Dog King walked out. What a huge Starry Sky Bear Dog. Marquis Jin's eyes widened. Third Elder, it's the Starry Sky Bear Dog King. The Supremes of the Golden Sand tribe reminded Marquis Jin. Hearing this, Jin, whose breathing became hurried. The Starry Sky Bear Dog King was 100 times rarer than an ordinary Starry Sky Bear Dog. It could only be chanced upon, not sought. If he could bring the Starry Sky Bear Dog King back to the leader, his position would definitely rise greatly, becoming the great elder who was second only to the leader. Kid, hand over the Starry Sky Bear Dog King and I'll spare your life. Marquis Jin said sternly. If you have the ability, come and take it yourself. Yi Chen mocked. Refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Kill him. Marquis Jin waved his hand. The Supremes of the Golden Sand tribe rushed out like a whirlwind, pouncing towards the Supremes of the Eternal tribe. Heaven Splitter, go and eat Marquis Jin. Yi Chen could tell that Jin, who only had the aura of a peak Supreme being, and Sky Splitter could easily kill him. He did not know that the Starry Sky Bear Dog King that followed him was countless times more powerful than normal Starry Sky Bear Dogs. It was not something that a mere Supreme like him could handle. Of course, if Marquis Jin knew that Heaven Splitter had the strength of a mid-level Supreme, he probably wouldn't have ordered the attack. After all, Heaven Splitter had the strength of a mid-level Supreme. Yi Chen, who could tame Heaven Splitter, definitely had the strength of a mid-level Supreme. Roar. Heaven Splitter's 4 limbs exerted force, and with a single leap, he arrived beside Jin Hu. His sharp claws shot out and clawed at Jin Hu. How could Jin Hu have expected Heaven Splitter's speed to be so fast? He only had the time to raise his saber horizontally before a huge force collided with him. The saber slashed back, causing Jin Hu's body to tremble violently, and fresh blood spurted out. Impossible. Jin Hu's eyes bulged. Without waiting for Jin Hu to react, Sky Splitter opened his mouth and bit off Jin Hu's head. His claws clawed at Jin Hu's body, turning him into a bloody mess. Finally, Sky Splitter swallowed him whole. The stomach of a ferocious beast was a world of its own, capable of digesting existences stronger than itself. Clang. A set of supreme armor and a huge blade were spat out by Sky Split. Vicious beasts were unable to digest supreme weapons. Of course, it wasn't impossible to forcefully digest them, but it would take too much time and wouldn't bring any benefits. With a supreme weapon in its stomach, the efficiency of digesting other things would be reduced. The gains didn't make up for the losses. Good job. Yi Chen put away the supreme armor and saber. The Desolate Race Supreme's domain realm was too low. Yi Chen released his sword domain with all his might, instantly enveloping the 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes. The 30 Golden Sand Tribes Supremes panicked as they powered their domains to resist the sword domain. Unfortunately, their domains felt like they were facing a vast ocean against the sword domain. It was already pretty good that they could protect themselves, so how could they resist it? Yi Chen couldn't even be bothered to pull out the celestial sword. He punched out 30 times in one breath, and with the 30 punches, the 30 Golden Sand Tribe Supremes immediately collapsed to the ground, losing all combat strength. This was the result of Yi Chen showing mercy, or his punches would have killed them. After devouring Jin Hu, Sky Splitter did not continue devouring the other Golden Sand Tribe Supremes. It only injured them to the ground. A man and a dog were invincible. Your third elder is dead. Quickly abandon your weapons and surrender, or you will be killed without mercy. Yi Chen shouted loudly, accompanied by Sky Splitter's domineering roar. Hearing this, all the Golden Sand Tribe Supremes threw down their weapons. It wasn't that they were cowardly, but the disparity was too great. The other party, a man and a dog, had taken care of most of them. Continuing to resist was just courting death. Village Chief, incorporate them. In the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen was in charge of fighting, while the village chief was in charge of incorporating them. The two had a clear division of labor. All right. The village chief, Feng Baixiong, was overjoyed. Yi Chen's combat strength was too strong. The Eternal Tribe was destined to prosper, and they would achieve great things in the Wilderness God Continent. The incorporation was very smooth. After the oath was made, the Golden Sand Tribe's men that Jin Hu brought became members of the Eternal Tribe. The Eternal Tribe became unprecedentedly powerful, with more than 70 Supremes. Things were not over yet. Since the two tribes had already started fighting, they naturally had to conquer the Golden Sand Tribe as soon as possible. With Yi Chen and the village chief in the lead, a group of people marched towards the Golden Sand Tribe. The original Golden Sand Tribe members followed behind bitterly. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. As long as Yi Chen and the Starry Sky Beardog King were here, it would not be difficult for the Eternal Tribe to become a 5th-rank tribe. The Golden Sand Tribe would have to submit sooner or later. After a day, the group arrived near the Golden Sand Tribe. In Golden Sand Tribe, the yellow-haired middle-aged man walked out with a group of Supremes. When he saw Jin Hu's group standing behind Yi Chen's group, his eyes couldn't help but squint as he asked in a loud voice, "Where is Jin Hu? Jin Hun, what's going on? Tell me quickly." Jin Hun was the leader of the Golden Sand Tribe's 5 hunting squads. He smiled bitterly and said, "Leader, we have already submitted to the Eternal Tribe. As for Elder Jin Hu, he died in battle." Another original Golden Sand Tribe Supreme said, "Leader, the Golden Sand Tribe can't resist supremacy Yi Chen's strength. We should quickly surrender." His family was in the Golden Sand Tribe. Since he had submitted to the Eternal Tribe, he naturally hoped that the Golden Sand Tribe would submit as well. Bullshit. If you want to conquer my Golden Sand Tribe, you have to defeat me first. Who dares to fight me? The Golden Sand Tribe's leader was bolder and more domineering than Yi Chen had imagined. He originally wanted to ask Sky Splitter to leave, but that was too insulting. "I'll fight you." Yi Chen stood with his hands behind his back. "One punch. As long as you can take one punch from me, the Golden Sand Tribe will henceforth submit to the Eternal Tribe." The Golden Sand Tribe's leader was rough on the outside but meticulous on the inside. The Eternal Tribe had many more Supremes than them. If they fought as a group, they would definitely lose. Therefore, he decided to retreat in order to advance and fight alone. Like a primordial mountain running, the Golden Sand Tribe's leader roared and punched at Yi Chen. This punch shone with golden light. Before the punch arrived, the wind from the punch had already arrived. The terrifying wind from the punch tore the ground apart and violently churned. "Not bad, it's a novice Supremes." Yi Chen also punched out. The two fists collided. Yi Chen didn't move a single inch, but the Golden Sand Tribe's leader vomited blood and was sent flying. Chapter 1333. Just like that, the Golden Sand Tribe completely submitted to the Eternal Tribe, and the Eternal Tribe suddenly became a second-class tribe with 4,850 families. They only needed 150 families to officially become a third-class tribe. On this day, Yi Chen was practicing swordsmanship in the yard. He had been a Supreme for some time, but the 5-element sword technique had not reached the great success stage. This was also the reason why he could not improve further and become an existence on the same level as Supreme True Martial and Sky Demon Supremes. After all, these two, even if they did not have a divine weapon, were still high-level Supreme. Yi Chen did not have a divine weapon, Sky Sword, so he was only a mid-level Supreme. There was a difference of one level. Although the essence of the Three Realms Supreme's martial arts has benefited me a lot and my swordsmanship has improved by leaps and bounds, other people's skills are still other people's. I can use it as a reference, but I can't copy it. If I want to reach the great success stage of the 5-element sword technique, I need something new to inspire me. Or, like Supreme True Martial and the others, I can use time to accumulate, but that is too slow. Yi Chen frowned slightly. At his level, it was way too hard to make any progress. Right now, the only thing he was confident in was his spirit body. But, if he could not find any precious treasures, then it would be pointless. Ta, ta, ta. There was a knock on the door outside the yard. Come in, Yi Chen said casually. The person who came in was the chief of the Golden Sand tribe, Jin Ba. Supremacy. Jin Ba said respectfully. The Eternal Tribe could do without the old village chief or anyone else, but it could not do without the supremacy. The more he spent time with Yi Chen, the more he felt that Yi Chen was powerful. What is it? Yi Chen asked. Jin Ba smiled. I want to offer a treasure to the supremacy. Treasure? Yi Chen looked at Jin Ba carefully. What treasure? Jin Ba was a bold and domineering person, and he valued power very much. Yi Chen guessed that Jin Ba wanted to build a good relationship with him, so that when the Eternal Tribe developed into a powerful tribe, he could get a good position. Supremacy, please take a look. Jin Ba did not keep Yi Chen in suspense, taking out a half-meter square stone from his storage ring. The stone was grey in color, and its edges were not even. It looked like a small fragment of a broken stone wall. Yi Chen did not pay much attention at first, but the next moment, his expression changed. There was nothing special about the stone. It was just a hard stone, but there was an extra word on it, tyrant. This word seemed to come alive, giving off a boundless domineering aura. One look was enough to shock Yi Chen's mind. The change in Yi Chen's expression naturally could not be hidden from Jin Ba. Holding the stone with both of his hands, Jin Ba said respectfully, "This item is for you, sir." "Where did you get this?" Yi Chen took the stone and asked. Taking back his hands, Jin Ba replied, "Thousands of years ago, in the middle of the endless mountains, someone found a stone wall with a calligraphy written on it. Because of this stone wall, dozens of powerful tribes started a war. In the end, the stone wall broke into thousands of pieces and flew away. I was lucky enough to get one of them. Looking at the word tyrant on it, my martial arts improved by leaps and bounds. Therefore, I believe that this calligraphy was not written by an ordinary person. Perhaps it was a legendary supreme. Not only a legendary supreme, but just by looking at the word tyrant, Yi Chen knew that the owner of the calligraphy was not just a simple legendary supreme. It was very likely a demigod, because from this word, Yi Chen could see countless possibilities. Legendary supreme was the essence, while demigods were the experts. The so-called experts did not mean that they were experts in everything. All right, I'll accept it. If you need anything in the future, come find me, Yi Chen said. As long as the Venerable likes it, Jin Ba has no requirements. Jin Ba looked rough and domineering, but he was actually very meticulous. He only hoped that Yi Chen would have a good impression of him. This was more important than anything else. After Jin Ba left, Yi Chen carefully looked at the word tyrant on the stone. Unknowingly, Yi Chen's mind entered a strange space. In this space, a shadow was performing one set of sword techniques after another. These sword techniques were all different, but they had one thing in common, and that was domineering. After a long time, Yi Chen's mind exited the strange space. What a powerful word, tyrant! The simple word tyrant made Yi Chen understand what it meant to be domineering. In front of this word, Jin Ba's domineering aura was child's play. Yi Chen had never seen anyone with more domineering aura than the word tyrant. Perhaps, by studying this word, I can create a supreme sword move that has reached the completion stage. There was a difference between a sword move and a sword art. A sword move was just one move, while a sword art was complete. Compared to the former, the latter was more profound. For example, as long as the 5 elements sword art reached the completion stage, all the sword moves that used the profound of the 5 elements as the foundation would reach the completion stage, greatly increasing their power. However, once a sword move reached the completion stage, there would be no way for the other sword moves to benefit. Even so, Yi Chen was still full of hope. A supreme sword move at the completion stage would greatly increase his combat power. As the days passed, Yi Chen's study of the word tyrant became more profound. Among all the sword moves, the 5-element slash is the most suitable for this word. Creating a sword move for the word tyrant alone was too time-consuming. Integrating the essence of the word into the 5-element slash would save a lot of time. What Yi Chen wanted to do was to combine the two into one. A month later, beside a lake near the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen practiced his sword moves over and over again while the starry bear dog king, Sky Splitter, was capturing aquatic beasts. Open. The tyrannical sword momentum kept increasing. When it reached the limit, Yi Chen slashed at the lake. Boom. A sword mark that was dozens of miles long and 100 meters deep appeared in the lake. Splash. Water splashed everywhere as aquatic beasts were shaken out of the lake, turning into a bloody pulp on the spot. Sky Splitter jumped in fright and quickly retreated. The wilderness god continent was different from the outside world. Every blade of grass, every tree, every soil, and every rock was incomparably hard. Normally, it would be impressive if Yi Chen could leave a sword mark that was several miles long in the lake. The 5-element slash combined the essence of the word tyrant. Let's call it the tyrant sword form. The tyrant sword form wasn't just tyrannical. More importantly, it transformed the profound of the 5 elements into an invincible force. Although Yi Chen's 5-element sword art hadn't reached the completion stage, the tyrant sword form had reached the completion stage. It was like taking a shortcut. A single word tyrant allowed me to create the tyrant sword form. I wonder how many words there are in that calligraphy. If I can comprehend the entire calligraphy, how amazing would that be? The power of the tyrant sword form made Yi Chen realize how precious the calligraphy on the stone wall was. One had to know that a piece of calligraphy would have at least dozens of words, maybe even hundreds of words. If a single word was so powerful, how amazing would dozens or hundreds of words be? Yi Chen didn't even dare to think about it. One more reason to make the Eternal Tribe strong. Yi Chen wanted to obtain the complete stone wall. Even if he couldn't get it, it would be good if he could get one more word. In order to obtain these words, he naturally had to conquer the other tribes. Chapter 1334. Half a month later, the Eternal Tribe rose to the 3rd rank. A village called Bluestone Village came to join. This village originally had 2 Supremes, but one of them died while hunting in the mountains. The remaining Supremes felt that the village would be hard to maintain, so he led the villagers to join the Eternal Tribe. At least, they wouldn't have to worry about meat anymore. During this period of time, many scouts from other tribes discovered the Eternal Tribe. The Huangshan continent was vast and sparsely populated. Moreover, the Huangshan divine law covered the entire continent, limiting the range of soul power. If one wanted to draw a map, they would have to send people to scout everywhere. The Eternal Tribe had a team in charge of scouting and drawing maps, called the Scouting Team, led by 2 Supremes. There were 4 tribes on the Eternal Tribe's latest map. The Eternal Tribe was in the center, the Armored Tribe was in the north, the Flying Bird Tribe was in the south, and the Greenwood Tribe was in the northeast. Among them, the Armored Tribe was the closest to the Eternal Tribe, the Flying Bird Tribe was a bit further, and the Greenwood Tribe was the furthest. It was about twice the distance to the Armored Tribe, but the Greenwood Tribe and the Armored Tribe were close. Yi Chen wasn't in a hurry to attack. Taking down these tribes would be a piece of cake for him, so there was no need to rush. Recently, he had been comprehending the martial intent in the tyrant character. This was the martial intent of a demigod, which had reached the 9th step. His destruction sword intent and immortal sword intent were both at the peak of the 8th step, only a step away from the 9th step. Perhaps he would be able to find a path to the 9th step. In the sky, a nimble figure was hurrying at an unimaginable speed. Comprehending the line character actually increased my speed so much. I heard Dad say that the one who wrote this was a demigod. Seems like it's true. Passing by a mountain peak, the nimble figure landed. It was a beautiful woman in her 20s. Her eyes were big, and she seemed to be the unruly type. She didn't fear anything in the world, but judging from her aura, she was at the level of a super supremes. There was even a hint of nobility that seemed to look down on the world. This was the temperament of a person with a high position. After so many days, let's take a rest first. The woman took out an exquisite and beautiful courtyard from her storage ring. The courtyard landed with a faint radiance, and the woman entered. At night, boom, a loud sound rang out, and the woman walked out of the house. She looked at the dizzy supreme-level vicious beasts outside and couldn't help but smile. My father personally laid out 18 layers of arrays in this courtyard. Each layer of array can defend against a legendary supreme levels attack for a very long time. To completely break through these 18 layers of arrays, an ordinary legendary supreme level expert would need at least 1 or 2 months of continuous attacks. If someone heard the woman's words, they would definitely be dumbfounded. 18 layers of array formations. Each layer could defend against a legendary supreme's attack for a long time. Could it be that the girl's father was a legendary supreme being, one that was proficient in array formations, or was he a mid-level or even high-level legendary supreme being? Forget it, I was woken up by the noise. Let me comprehend the word break first. Taking out a stone with the word break on it, the woman's mind entered the strange space. The next day, the courtyard, and the courtyard. A 5th rank tribe is too powerful. I'm definitely not a match for it. There are at least 600 to 700 supreme beings inside, and there are probably quite a number of super supreme beings. Rank 4 tribes have 200 to 300 supremes. My defense is not that high. It's too risky. Let's play it safe. I'll just take down a rank 3 tribe. Once I have my own force, I'll upgrade it to rank 4, or even rank 5. Every time she passed a tribe, the woman would murmur. By the time the tribe's experts caught up, she would be long gone. On this day, the woman arrived at the Iron Armor tribe. This is the tribe. She took out her crescent blade and yelled, "Who's the leader? Come out and surrender. This tribe is mine." As she spoke, she slashed at the Iron Armor tribe. The invincible saber chi broke through dozens of layers of formations like a hot knife through butter, almost destroying the Iron Armor tribe's formation completely. The leader and other supremes, who were about to come out, felt their scalps go numb. Where did this little fiend come from? She broke through so many layers of arrays with one blade strike. She's at least a high-level super supremes. Iron River, Iron Mountain, you two come with me. The leader of the Iron Armor tribe was a black-robed old man. Following him were 2 muscular men. All 3 of them had the aura of a super supremes. You're not going to surrender? That's fine. I've been bored to death. The woman was eager to try. The leader of the Iron Armor tribe, Tai Yu, took a deep breath and yelled, "I'm the leader of the Iron Armor tribe. If you know what's good for you, leave now. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Although the other party was a high-level supremes, Tai Yu himself was a mid-level supremes. Together with the 2 low-level supremes, they still had a chance. So much nonsense. Watch my blade. The woman slashed at Tai Yu. The dark green blade light was fast and swift. So fast. Tai Yu hurriedly raised the shield in his hand. This shield was a supreme weapon that could be used for both defense and offense. With a clang, sparks flew in all directions. Tai Yu staggered back dozens of steps and almost fell. "Let's go together." Tai Yu roared. Rows of saw teeth appeared on the edge of the shield. Holding the shield, Tai Yu charged at the woman. Facing the 3's attacks, the woman moved her feet and disappeared without a trace. When she reappeared, she was behind Tai Shan. With a sweep of the back of her blade, Tai Shan was sent flying while vomiting blood. Tai He was also confused by the woman's elusive movements. In a moment of carelessness, His chin was hit by the hilt of the blade. What kind of movement speed is this? How could Tai Yu not see that the woman's movement speed was extremely fast? When the opponent's speed reached a certain level, no matter how strong one was, it would be useless unless one's defense was very high. Still not surrendering? Do you really want me to fight seriously? The woman raised her crescent blade and shouted at Tai Yu. Tai Yu's expression changed several times. In the end, he had to face reality. It was obvious that the opponent was not serious. Once she did, the consequences would be unpredictable. Although the Iron Armor tribe had many supremes, most of them were ordinary supremes. If they fought to the death, the Iron Armor tribe might be able to repel the opponent, but the tribe's losses would not be small. In the future, it would be very difficult to contend against the other third-rank tribes. Rather than that, it was better to surrender. There was a big difference between surrendering to a person and surrendering to a tribe. Surrendering to the latter, one's status would be much lower. Seeing the other surrender, the woman nodded with a look of teaching. Don't worry, I won't steal your position. As long as you give me the title of supremacy, I can help you raise the Iron Armor tribe to 4th or even 5th rank. Iron Armor tribe's main hall. Tai Yu took out a map and said to the woman, Supremacy, there are 3 tribes around the Iron Armor tribe, Greenwood tribe, Eternal tribe, and Blood-drinking tribe. Among them, Greenwood tribe is the lowest, a 2nd rank tribe. Eternal tribe is 3rd rank, and Blood-drinking tribe is also 3rd rank. Then we'll start with Greenwood tribe, then conquer Eternal tribe and Blood-drinking tribe. The woman glanced at the map and said, Supremacy, the Iron Armor tribe's main force has set off for Greenwood tribe. A scout from the Eternal tribe reported. So fast. Is he not afraid of us attacking him? Yi Chen revealed a pensive expression. In fact, he alone could conquer a 3rd rank tribe, and even a 4th rank tribe might not be able to stop him. Let's first conquer the Flying Bird tribe. Facing such a situation, the Eternal tribe had to be prepared, just in case. Chapter 1335. Just like the Eternal tribe, the Flying Bird tribe only had 2 supremes, 1 mid-level and 1 low-level supremes. They were the chief and great elder of the Flying Bird tribe. Report, the Eternal tribe is attacking. A scout rushed into the main hall of the Flying Bird tribe. They're finally attacking. Everyone, get ready to defend against the Eternal tribe. Today, either we conquer the Eternal tribe, or the Eternal tribe conquers us. The chief of the Flying Bird tribe was a middle-aged woman with a charming appearance. Good timing. After conquering the Eternal tribe, our Flying Bird tribe will become a level 4 tribe. The great elder of the Flying Bird tribe laughed. Not far from the Flying Bird tribe, the Eternal tribe's combatants, led by Yi Chen and the village chief, flew toward the Flying Bird tribe. Soon, they stopped near the Flying Bird tribe. Your Eternal tribe is really daring. You've just become a level 3 tribe, and you already dare to attack my Flying Bird tribe. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The great elder of the Flying Bird tribe shouted. Jin Ba replied, If it wasn't for the benevolence of our venerable, your Flying Bird tribe would have been long gone. Hurry up and surrender. Don't waste our venerable's time. Arrogant. Get your venerable to come out. I, Takoda, will fight him. The great elder of the Flying Bird tribe was called Takoda. You think you're worthy? I, Jin Ba, will fight you. Jin Ba's figure flashed and appeared in the open space in front of him. There were all kinds of battles between tribes. Some were invitations, some were group battles, and some were between chiefs. Different situations had different forms of battles. You can't do it. Takoda brought with him the power to destroy mountains and slash towards Jin Ba. Bang, 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 bang. Both of them were low-level supremes, and their strengths were about the same. After 500 rounds of fierce battle, Jin Ba eventually won, sending Takata flying with a punch. Of course, it was difficult to injure the other at the same level, let alone kill him. Takata wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, wanting to fight again. Takoda, that's enough. Jin Ba, stand down. At this moment, the chief of the Flying Bird tribe and Yi Chen spoke at the same time. Takoda reluctantly retreated. Jinbei grinned and returned to the Eternal Tribe camp. I'm the venerable of the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen. If you can block one of my punches, the Eternal Tribe will retreat immediately. Yi Chen slowly walked forward and said to the leader of the Flying Bird Tribe. One punch. A trace of indignation flashed on the face of the Soaring Bird Tribe's leader. She was a mid-level super sovereign, and even a high-level super sovereign wouldn't dare to say that they could defeat her in a single punch. She really didn't know if the other party was arrogant or ignorant. Chief of the Flying Bird Tribe, Gaou. Please enlighten me. Gaou silently took a few steps forward. It was these few steps that caused Jinbei's expression to change drastically. The village chief and the rest were puzzled. Gaou's few steps were as though hundreds or thousands of people were stacked on top of each other. Before the other party's feet touched the ground, it was impossible to predict how the other party would move or where they would eventually appear. In short, there were countless possibilities in these few steps. An ordinary mid-level super sovereign would probably lose to her in one move. Of course, it was only defeat and not death. It was impossible to kill someone at the same level. If one could kill someone at the same level, then they wouldn't be on the same level anymore. What a mysterious movement technique. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and nodded slightly. Are you done? Asked Yi Chen with his hands behind his back. I've been done for a long time. Gaou was also sizing up Yi Chen. She could see that Yi Chen's aura was deep and unfathomable, but she was still very confident in blocking one punch. In that case, be careful. Yi Chen took out his right hand and clenched it into a fist. Take my punch. Without moving his body, Yi Chen's right fist swung out. In the next moment, layers of fist energy enveloped Gaou like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. The speed was fast and tricky. Gaou's eyes were solemn. Her body quickly shuttled back and forth. As she shuttled back and forth, countless of her appeared in the void. On each of her, there was a shadow of a bird. These bird shadows brought Gaou to dodge the fist energy at unimaginable angles. Seeing that all the fist energy was about to hit nothing, a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Chen's mouth. Suddenly, all the fist energy turned into one and landed on one of Gaou's body. Puff! Gaou spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. This was her real body. How did you see through it? Gaou asked with a face full of disbelief. Your transformation is too simple for me. And my fist technique is the mortal world killing fist of the three realms. Other than not having such dense killing intent and power, it is no different from the mortal world killing fist. Yi Chen said the last sentence in his heart. I'm impressed. From today onwards, there will be no Flying Bird Tribe, Gaou said bitterly. Leader. Gaou Tian was anxious. Gaou waved her hand. The difference is obvious. Can't you see it? The conquest of the Flying Bird Tribe went smoothly. After keeping the Flying Bird Tribe's houses, everyone gathered together and returned to the Eternal Tribe. The Flying Bird Tribe had a total of 6,500 households. Together with the Eternal Tribe's 5,000 households, there were a total of 11,500 households. The Eternal Tribe had officially become a fourth-rank tribe. Compared to the change in population, the increase in Supremes greatly increased the Eternal Tribe's strength. The Flying Bird Tribe had 75 Supremes, while the Eternal Tribe had 70. Adding up to 145, there were 4 Super Supremes, 31 Powerful Supremes, and 110 Ordinary Supremes. With so many Supremes in the outside world, it would definitely be an unparalleled force. Unfortunately, the Wilderness God continent was enveloped by the Wilderness God's laws. The people of the Wilderness race would never be able to leave the Wilderness God continent. Even outsiders would find it extremely difficult to leave. Yi Chen guessed that the reason the Wilderness God continent could produce so many Supremes was probably related to the Wilderness God's laws. After all, it went against common sense. No one knew the meaning of the Wilderness God continent's existence. Perhaps only the gods and the Wilderness God knew. The Eternal Tribe, which had more than doubled in size, looked like a small city. There were spacious roads, buildings of varying heights, and a plaza in the middle of the tribe. It had everything. The tribe had even opened simple shops. With more people, the social environment would become more complicated. This was a process of progress. Iron Armor Tribe. What? When we conquered the Greenwood Tribe, the Eternal Tribe conquered the Flying Bird Tribe? How could it be so fast? Upon hearing the scout's report, the Iron Armor Tribe's leader, Tai Yu, widened his eyes. The scout lowered his head and said, "It's absolutely true. I also saw the Flying Bird Tribe's leader, Gao. Hehe, looks like the Eternal Tribe isn't simple. There might be an expert, an extremely powerful expert, holding down the fort. Otherwise, it would be impossible for an ordinary third-rank tribe to conquer another third-rank tribe in such a short period of time." The woman took a bite of fruit. "Then what do we do?" Tai Yu asked the woman. "It's very simple. First, give up on the Eternal Tribe and devour the bloodthirsty tribe." The woman became interested in the Eternal Tribe. Interesting things were put at the end of her life motto. Chapter 1336. The blood-drinking tribe was very strong, much stronger than the armored tribe. The entire tribe had 8,000 families, 100 supremes, and 5 super supremes. If it wasn't for the fact that the blood-drinking tribe didn't have any high-level super supremes, the armored tribe would have already been devoured. For a tribe that wanted to level up, not only did they need many supremes, they also needed an expert that could intimidate the masses. Without such an expert, even if they had more supremes, it would be very difficult to defeat a tribe of the same level. The armored tribe and the blood-drinking tribe had fought many times, and the blood-drinking tribe always had the upper hand. Unfortunately, they couldn't completely suppress the armored tribe. The Greenwood tribe lived near the two great tribes and was lucky enough to survive. After all, the two great tribes didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, if their nest was destroyed, it would be a big problem. This balance was broken until the mysterious woman came. "Leader, the Iron Armor tribe is attacking." The atmosphere in the blood-drinking tribe was heavy. They had found out that a powerful expert had come to the armored tribe. With just the strength of a single person, they were afraid that their blood-drinking tribe would also be conquered. "Let's go and meet her." The leader of the blood-drinking tribe was a bald man with a blood tattoo on his head. Leading a group of people, the bald man walked out of the blood-drinking tribe. "I am Xue Kuang, the leader of the blood-drinking tribe." Xue Kuang's eyes swept around, and soon, his attention fell on the mysterious woman. The woman smiled and said, "You should be unwilling to surrender directly. How about this? If you can take one blade from me, the armored tribe will immediately retreat." This woman's words coincided with Yi Chen's. Only the time and place were different. "Okay." Holding a spear, Xue Kuang arrived in front of the woman. "Make your move." The woman pulled out her crescent moon blade and pointed it at the ground. "Sorry for the offense." Xue Kuang let out a low roar and his entire body turned into a blood-colored tornado, sweeping towards the woman. Countless blood-colored spear shadows shot out from the tornado's mouth, which was extremely domineering. "Break." The woman held the crescent moon blade with one hand and slashed down. A blade light flashed and the blood-colored tornado was split into two. In the next moment, Xue Kuang was sent flying, and there was a faint blade light behind him. "Wow." Xue Kuang coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. It was too terrifying. His opponent's blade chi had been released and then retracted, obviously holding back. However, that invincible blade chi had still pierced through his body, causing him quite a bit of damage. It was hard to imagine that if his opponent had used his full strength, he would have died. The blood-drinking tribe is willing to submit to the Iron Armor tribe. As he vomited blood, Xue Kuang raised his hand in surrender. Even the blood-drinking tribe has been conquered. It seems like the Iron Armor tribe is going to soar to the skies. Tai Yu rejoiced in his heart. He was even glad that the woman had conquered the Iron Armor tribe. Otherwise, the Iron Armor tribe would not have such glory. In the future, when the Iron Armor tribe became a fifth-rank tribe, his authority as the leader would definitely increase greatly. After conquering the bloodthirsty tribe, the armored tribe only had one target left, the Eternal tribe. Has the blood-drinking tribe been conquered? After receiving the scout's report, Yi Chen fell into deep thought. The old village chief was puzzled. How did the iron armor tribe's strength suddenly increase so much? I remember that the blood-drinking tribe was much stronger than the iron armor tribe before. Yi Chen speculated, the iron armor tribe should have sent an expert. Expert? Could it be someone from the outside world? The supremes of the eternal tribe looked at Yi Chen. I don't know if it's someone from the outside world, but in addition to outsiders, the Wild's God continent definitely has its own powerful experts. There were too many supremes in the Wild's God continent, and the more there were, the more likely there were experts. From Yi Chen's point of view, the Wild's God continent was very likely to have legendary supremes, or even more than one. Gao Yu said, Venerable is right. There are many tribes in the Wild's God continent. Generally, a 5th-rank tribe has a high-level supremes, a 6th-rank tribe has a peak supremes or quasi-legend supremes, a 7th-rank tribe has a legendary supremes, and an 8th-rank tribe is said to be the peak of the Wild's God continent. There are basically no 9th-rank tribes. Once they appear, they will be defeated by the alliance of many 8th-rank tribes. After all, Gao Yu was once the leader of a 3rd-rank tribe, so she knew more than others. We'll deal with it when it comes. When the Iron Armor tribe attacks, we'll know what kind of expert it is. Yi Chen was also very curious about this mysterious expert. What would come would come. 3 days later, the Iron Armor tribe attacked. Yi Chen and the mysterious woman noticed each other at a glance. The two really stood out too much. You're the expert of the Eternal tribe. The expert of the Iron Armor tribe should be you. The two spoke one after the other. Hehe, it seems that you're a strong opponent. I wonder if you can block my saber technique. The woman was very confident in her saber technique. We'll know after we try. Yi Chen pulled out the heavenly sword. The heavenly sword was a sacred artifact. Even if its source was damaged, it was still not something a supreme's weapon could compare to. A sacred artifact. The woman determined the grade of the heavenly sword at a glance. On the Wild's God continent, sacred artifacts were usually in the hands of legendary supremes. Her father was the leader of the Unfalling Eagle tribe, and he had a sacred artifact, Sky Hammer. Every sacred artifact had a powerful characteristic. The Sky Hammer's characteristic was destruction. He didn't know what the sacred artifact in his opponent's hand had. Fortunately, my Blue Moon Saber is also a sacred artifact and has an armor-piercing characteristic. Destruction and armor-piercing couldn't be lumped together. Destruction was pure destruction, while armor-piercing was about gathering power to attack. Obviously, destruction was much stronger. Whoosh! The woman moved very fast, much faster than Yi Chen. If it wasn't for the Netherworld's sacred eye, Yi Chen wouldn't even be able to see the woman's trajectory. When she reappeared, the woman was behind Yi Chen and slashed at him. As if he had eyes on the back of his head, Yi Chen turned around and blocked the woman's slash with his sword. Rumble. A huge crater appeared on the ground, as if a meteorite had crashed into it. The shockwave radiated, and many people fell on their butts. What a powerful might. The two of them aren't high-level supreme beings, but peak supreme beings. Shui Kuang and Tai Yu could see it. On the Eternal tribe's side, Gao Yu also saw it. The woman had conquered the Iron Armor tribe and the blood-drinking tribe before, but she hadn't used her true strength. For her, a little bit of power was enough to conquer them. Unlimited power condensation. Yi Chen's right hand was numb, and his eyes were solemn. The crescent moon saber in the woman's hand was clearly a sacred artifact. Different from the light power of the heavenly sword, the crescent moon saber carried the armor-piercing power. The light power was illusory, while the armor-piercing power was a real attack. Of course, it didn't mean that the light power was weaker than the armor-piercing power. The first move was just a test. The sword energy directly transmitted to my right arm. The woman didn't feel good either. The power contained in the opponent's sacred artifact was just and honorable, and it was difficult to completely exclude it. Chapter 1337. Revolving Blade Wheel. Seeing that her speed couldn't confuse Yi Chen, the woman leaped into the air and spun her body. A spiraling blue blade light swept towards Yi Chen. The blade light went from bottom to top, and its speed kept increasing. So did the power of the blade. In addition, it covered a huge area. It could be said to be a powerful killing move. Yi Chen took a few steps back and swung his heaven sword. Space-time sword art, Death Cleave. The interweaving sword net covered a wider area than the spiraling blade light. Under Yi Chen's intentional control, the sword net was shrinking as if he was fishing. Clang, 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 clang. The sky was filled with sparks as the sword net covered the spiraling blade light. The spiraling blade light rampaged, trying to tear the sword net apart. The blade and sword clashed millions of times. It seemed to be a long time, but it was just a moment. After a moment, the sword net was shattered, and the spiraling blade light vanished. Sword burial art. A figure passed through the dissipating sword net and blade light and stabbed the woman. The woman retreated quickly. Her speed was even faster than Yi Chen's attack. But soon, she found that her speed was getting slower. A condensed space-time power had enveloped her. Unlucky. Ever since she understood the secret of the word attainment, the woman had always been successful. But there were exceptions. For example, when she met an expert who was proficient in space-time, her speed was useless. Moment of youth. The woman didn't retreat anymore. She stabbed the blue moon blade into the ground. The next moment, the blade light burst out like flower petals, wrapping the woman up like a flower bud. Yi Chen's sword burial art stabbed on it, but it was like a clay ox entering the sea. Not good. His strong intuition told Yi Chen that the woman wasn't done with this move. As expected, when Yi Chen's strength was exhausted, the flower bud bloomed, and the blade light burst out. The woman stood in the middle of the blossoming flower and slashed at Yi Chen. Dang 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 dang. At this critical moment, Yi Chen's heart force burst forth, and his sword speed burst forth. In an instant, his sword speed was raised to a level that surpassed the heavenly Tao, blocking wave after wave of saber lights. However, within the saber lights, there was also a blue saber light. The saber light seemed illusory, and real at the same time, as if it was condensed from mist. A smile appeared in the woman's eyes. She believed that Yi Chen would not be able to block this attack. 5 elements sword art, extreme prosperity and decline. Yi Chen's expression did not change. He waved the heavenly sword, and the 5-colored sword light filled the air. When the blue sword light came into contact with the 5-colored sword light, its power and speed immediately decreased as if it was stuck in a swamp. When the saber light was 3 inches away from Yi Chen, it suddenly dissipated. So strong. Up until now, the two of them were evenly matched. Yi Chen hadn't had so much fun in a long time. Although Celestial Demon Venerable and True Martial Venerable were stronger, they were a level higher than him. It was impossible for him to have so much fun, and he didn't have the chance to. I'm Lan Yu. What's your name? The woman asked. Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked at her doubtfully. Yi Chen, I can tell that you are young. Since you have given me so much fun, I can let you see my strongest saber move, Void Blade. Lan Yu said confidently. Void Blade? It seems very powerful, Yi Chen said. Of course it is. You will see it soon. Alright, bring it on. I also want to have a test subject for my Overlord sword style. Overlord sword style combined the essence of 5 elements / and the word Overlord. When the sword was used, it could destroy everything. It was extremely overbearing. It was Yi Chen's most overbearing sword move. Oh, I didn't expect you to have a trump card too. Lan Yu was a little surprised. She thought that Yi Chen had used up all his trump cards. Let's start. Lan Yu raised the blue moon saber with her right hand. The surging saber chi soared into the sky, giving people a feeling that it could cut and break everything. Yi Chen took a deep breath and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, Yi Chen's body erupted with an unprecedented dominance. The dominance and sword momentum combined to form an overbearing sword momentum. The heaven sword in Yi Chen's hand trembled, and the sound of the sword could be heard incessantly. Just like Lan Yu, Yi Chen also raised his heaven sword. The two didn't plan to dodge this attack. Who was stronger and who was weaker would be revealed with this attack. Void Blade. Overlord Sword Style. The two waved their sabers and swords at the same time. The blue saber chi crisscrossed, and the black sword chi violently swept. Before the two came into contact, the ground in the center had already cracked. Pieces of earth the size of a house flew up and shattered into nothingness. Rumble, in the stagnant smoke and dust, the saber chi and the sword chi collided, and a blue-black mass of air suddenly formed. Then, the mass of air spread at an unimaginable speed, and in an instant, it covered a radius of dozens of miles. Except for the woman and Yi Chen, everyone else was floating in the air, and they couldn't control it at all. Boom! An earth-shattering sound broke out, and everyone was sent flying while vomiting blood. Their faces were aghast. How can it be so terrifying? Even a quasi-legendary sovereign is only SOSO. GAO you had seen the battle of two quasi-legendary sovereigns. Although the momentum was greater than that of Yi Chen and Lan Yu, it was still limited. GAO you was right. The two who displayed the void-cleaving blade and the tyrant sword style had already entered the ranks of the quasi-legendary supremes. Just this move alone made the two fully deserving of the combat power of the quasi-legendary supremes. Of course, there were also strong and weak quasi-legendary supremes. Compared to the other quasi-legendary supremes, the two of them were still a bit weaker, unless most of their moves were comparable to the void-cleaving blade and the tyrant sword style. Puff! An arrow of blood spurted out from the corner of her mouth, and Lan Yu's face suddenly turned pale. I haven't completely comprehended the word break, or else I wouldn't have lost. The void blade contained the essence of the word break, but unfortunately, it wasn't completely comprehended. On the other hand, Yi Chen had completely comprehended the essence of the word overlord. I've lost. Lan Yu's complexion instantly recovered. She had lost this move, but it wasn't to the extent of causing her to be seriously injured. She had only consumed a bit of yuan qi and inextinguishable energy. It can be considered a draw. There was a saber scar on Yi Chen's cheek. Only now did the scar split open, and blood flowed out. Compared to Lan Yu, his situation was much better, but his immortal sword body was still broken. If he didn't have the immortal sword body, Yi Chen wouldn't dare to say that he would have one if the fight had continued. The main reason was that the opponent's crescent moon scimitar contained a powerful armor-piercing power that forcibly broke through his defense. Lan Yu laughed and heartlessly said, Tai Yu, since I've lost, the armored tribe will join the eternal tribe. Do you have any objections? I have no objections. Tai Yu didn't dare to say that he had any objections. That's good. Lan Yu looked at Yi Chen. The armored tribe can join the eternal tribe, but I also want to become the venerable of the eternal tribe. You won't refuse, right? The venerable is just an empty title. You're welcome. Yi Chen extended his hand to express his welcome. With the addition of the armored tribe, the eternal tribe's power swelled to a terrifying level, becoming a fifth-rank tribe with a population of 27,000 households. If each household had 3 people, then 27,000 households would have more than 80,000 people. In fact, the population had already surpassed 90,000, approaching 100,000. As for Yi Chen and Lan Yu, they were the left and right venerables of the eternal tribe. Chapter 1338. So you're an outsider. In the eternal tribe, after learning that Yi Chen was an outsider, Lan Yu was very curious. What is the outside world like? My dad heard from an outsider that the outside world is a vast universe. There are countless planets in the universe, and they are billions of times larger than the Wild's deity continent. The Wild's deity continent is just a part of the universe. Is that true? Lan Yu chattered. Yi Chen nodded. The outside world is so big. The experts there should be countless times more than our Wild's god continent, right? Lan Yu asked again. This time, Yi Chen shook his head. I don't know how many sovereigns there are in the outside world, but compared to the Wild's god continent, it's nothing. How is that possible? Our Wild's god continent is so small. Lan Yu's face was full of disbelief. Yi Chen smiled bitterly. It's true. There are many races in the outside world, and our human race is one of the most powerful races. However, our human race only has a few dozen sovereigns. Perhaps I'm counting a bit too many. I see. Our desolate race is naturally suited for cultivation. Lan Yu was somewhat proud. The people of the desolate race were born with at least astral-reaching realm cultivation. Lan Yu was even more powerful when she was born, being at the Sea of Souls realm. She had reached the life and death realm at the age of 10, which was much more powerful than the people from the outside world. She had heard from her father that the people from the outside world did not have any cultivation when they were born. Yi Chen didn't comment. In his opinion, the Wild's God continent was very special. What enveloped the entire continent was not the heavenly law, but the Wild's God's laws. If the Wild's God's laws set down a rule, it wouldn't be impossible for the desolate race's people to be born with astral reaching or Sea of Soul realm cultivation base. The methods of true gods were unfathomable, and not something ordinary people could figure out. Has anyone from your desolate race ever left the Wild's God continent? Yi Chen suddenly asked. Lan Yu froze for a moment before shaking her head. None. Since ancient times, not even one. The Wild's God's laws restrict us from leaving. If we want to leave the continent, there's only one way, and that's to enter the Wild's God Tower. Desolate God Tower? The Desolate God Tower is in the center of the Desolate God continent. Legend has it that it was built by the Desolate God. Whoever can pass through the Desolate God Tower will be able to leave the Desolate God continent and be summoned by the Desolate God. As for going to the outside world, that is impossible. Can the people outside leave? This was what Yi Chen wanted to know the most. He could not stay on the Wild's God continent forever. Lan Yu thought about it and said uncertainly, "My father said it's possible, but it's very difficult. Do you want to leave?" "I don't want to for now, but I'll have to leave eventually." One of them was a member of the desolate race, while the other was an outsider. They chatted about topics of interest. From Lan Yu, Yi Chen learned about the distribution of forces on the Wild's God continent. There were a total of 13 Grade 8 tribes on the Wild's God continent, and all of them were located in the central region of the continent. Outside the central region were tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of villages. Among the 13 Rank 8 tribes, 5 were the strongest. They were the Redbud Flower tribe, the Unfalling Eagle tribe, the Battle Tower tribe, the Star Ocean tribe, and the Cloud Central tribe. These 5 tribes occupied the best resources in the central region of the Wild's God continent, followed by the other 8 tribes. In addition to the Rank 8 tribes, there were even more Rank 7 tribes in the central region, a total of 81 Rank 7 tribes. Although there were many more Class 7 tribes than Class 8 tribes, and their combined strength far surpassed that of Class 8 tribes, there were very few Class 7 tribes that could defeat Class 8 tribes, even if they joined hands. Once, there were 10 Class 7 tribes that joined hands to attack the Unfalling Eagle tribe, but the final result was that these 10 Class 7 tribes were disbanded, and were divided between other Class 7 tribes and a large number of Class 6 tribes. Since then, they had disappeared. In the Wild's God continent, the 13 Rank 8 tribes were the rulers of the entire Wild's God continent. They did not allow any Rank 7 tribe to advance to Rank 8 tribe. Once a Rank 7 tribe advanced to Rank 8 tribe, it would immediately be attacked by other Rank 8 tribes until it was completely disbanded. It was for this reason that although Rank 7 tribes often fought with each other, they restrained themselves from devouring each other, unless they were prepared to face Rank 8 tribes. Of course, Rank 8 tribes did not dare to advance to Rank 9 tribes. Rank 9 tribes were taboo in the Wild's God continent. If they appeared, not only would they be attacked by Rank 8 tribes, but even Rank 7 tribes would also attack them. This strange rule kept the center of the Wild's God continent in a delicate balance. Let me tell you, the leaders of the 13 Rank 8 tribes all have powerful sacred weapons. Among them, the leaders of the 5 Rank 8 tribes have the most powerful sacred weapons. The leader of the Redbud Flower tribe has the Redbud armor, the leader of the Unfalling Eagle tribe has the Exploding Hammer, the Battle Tower tribe has the Battle Axe, the Starsea tribe has the Starsea Spear, and the Cloud tribe has the Thunder Punishment Spear. How do you know so much? I am very knowledgeable. These tribal leaders only have one saint artifact. My blue moon saber is an earth saint artifact, and your sword should be an earth saint artifact as well. Getting an earth saint artifact is both difficult and easy. As long as you have a 3rd grade supreme artifact and a piece of divine stone, you might be able to make an earth saint artifact. As for sky saint artifacts, they are extremely rare. There are no more than 5 sky saint artifacts in the entire Wilds God continent, and they are all in the hands of the leaders of the 5 rank 8 tribes. Earth sacred weapon? Sky sacred weapon? This was the first time Yi Chen had heard of it. It seems that you still don't understand what an earth sacred weapon and sky sacred weapon are. To put it simply, a supreme weapon with 1 divine stone will become an earth sacred weapon. With 10, it will become a sky sacred weapon. Of course, with 9 divine stones, it will also become an earth sacred weapon, but it will be at the peak of the earth sacred weapon. Your blue moon saber has several divine stones. My blue moon saber has 4 divine stones, but your sacred weapon is not bad either. Can a rank 5 supreme weapon have 10 divine stones and not collapse? Not necessarily. I don't know the specific details. If I knew, I would be a legendary supreme. Aya, why do you have so many questions? I thought you outsiders knew more than us. Hearing this, Yi Chen twitched his mouth. There were countless supremes on the Wilds God continent, and sacred weapons were definitely not rare. How could the outside world compare to them? Just thinking about it made him angry. If people like Sky Demon Sovereign and True Martial Sovereign came to the Wilds God continent, they would probably feel unhappy. Do you have any words left behind by a demigod? Lan Yu suddenly asked Yi Chen a question. She had 2 words of her own, one was attainment, and the other was destruction. Yi Chen's overlord sword style made her think that he might have some. The reason why she asked this question directly was that she was not afraid that Yi Chen would guess that she had some words and wanted to snatch them. Even if she could not defeat Yi Chen, she could still leave. Chapter 1339. Yes, you have it too? Yi Chen asked Lan Yu in reply. I have the word break. What word do you have? The word line was very important. After comprehending it, one's speed would increase by 10 or even 100 times. Lan Yu didn't plan to expose it. The word overlord. That's great. When I completely comprehend the word break, I'll exchange with you. How about that? Sure. Yi Chen didn't expect her to have the word break. It seemed like her identity wasn't that simple. How could an ordinary person know so much information? 1 month later, the 2 of them officially exchanged words. The word break, as the name suggested, contained the essence of breaking through everything. After comprehending it, Yi Chen's sword moves would be more threatening and destructive. This time, Yi Chen planned to merge the essence of the word break with the sword burial art. The sword burial art could bury the opponent's time. The space-time power would condense into a space-time sword force. Just this effect alone was no weaker than the 5-element sword ART's sword moves. However, Yi Chen's profound meaning of time was only 70% complete. This caused the sword burial ART's destructive power to be limited. It was much weaker than the 5-element sword art. For example, when he was fighting with Lan Yu, Yi Chen's sword burial art couldn't break through his opponent's defensive sword moves. In the courtyard, Yi Chen's mind entered a strange space. Inside, a figure started practicing sword skills. Every swing of the sword gave people a feeling that it could break through everything. After watching for a long time, Yi Chen felt his mind hurt. Compared to the word overlord, the word break seems to be better. Yi Chen immersed himself in his sword skills. He only left the strange space when his mind was in unbearable pain. The demigod realm is unpredictable. Just one word is so magical. I wonder what the other words are. Yi Chen was even more curious about the other words. Compared to Yi Chen, Lan Yu's comprehensive ability was obviously weaker. After spending 3 months, Yi Chen had successfully combined the essence of the word break and the burial sword spell together, while Lan Yu had not completely understood the essence of the word tyrant yet. Of course, be it the word tyrant or break, Yi Chen had not fully understood them either. What the demigod had left behind was a piece of calligraphy. Only when all the words were combined together would it be considered calligraphy. Comparing one word to another would be like comparing a firefly to the sun and moon. The sword burial technique, which contained the essence of the word break, was still far inferior to the hegemon sword style in terms of power, but it was more than 100 times stronger than the previous sword burial technique. In terms of facing an enemy, the sword burial technique was not much weaker than the hegemon sword style. The essence of the sword burial technique was to bury time, freezing the enemy's soul and body, and then kill them with a single strike. After recuperating for 2 months, Yi Chen and Lan Yu felt that the days were too peaceful. The two of them planned to conquer the other 5th-rank tribes and raise the Eternal Tribe to a 6th-rank tribe. Only by becoming a 6th-rank tribe would they be qualified to enter the central region of the Wilderness God Continent. There were the best resources there, as well as many dangerous places with a large number of treasures. The two of them first targeted the Iron River tribe. The Iron River tribe had 12 supremes, and the strongest was only a high-level supremes. They were no match for the Eternal Tribe. Yi Chen didn't even make a move. He watched as Lan Yu defeated the leader of the Iron River tribe and conquered the Iron River tribe. The Iron River tribe had 25,000 families. With the addition of the Eternal Tribe's 27,000 families, the population of the Eternal Tribe finally exceeded 50,000 families and became a 6th-rank tribe. However, 52,000 families were still too few. The two of them planned to conquer 2 more 5th-rank tribes and make the Eternal Tribe a relatively powerful existence among the 6th-rank tribes. A month later, the High Mountain Tribe and the Black Mountain Tribe were conquered one after another. The population of the Eternal Tribe reached 95,000 families, close to 100,000. Once it reached 100,000 families, it would become a 7th-rank tribe. However, the two of them were not ready to become a 7th-rank tribe. Once they became a 7th-rank tribe, they would receive the attention of other 7th-rank tribes. If a 7th-rank tribe attacked the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen and Lan Yu would definitely not be able to stop it. There were legendary supremes in a 7th-rank tribe. One legendary supremes was equivalent to dozens of Yi Chen and Lan Yu. Therefore, a 6th-rank tribe was the limit of the Eternal Tribe unless Yi Chen and Lan Yu could make another breakthrough and become legendary supremes. After becoming a 6th-rank tribe, the Eternal Tribe began to migrate. The journey this time was extremely long. Even if they traveled day and night, it would still take them about half a year. Normally, it would take them about a year. However, everyone was very excited. They had long since heard that the central region of the Wild's God continent was incomparably fertile. It was like a national capital, and although there would often be wars between tribes, they could still move about and communicate with each other. They could even do business with each other's tribes. Every tribe was like a city, and they weren't sealed off. In the pitch-black night, a tribe appeared in the barren mountains. There were countless bonfires in the tribe, and everyone was roasting meat and eating dinner. After eating some barbecued meat, Yi Chen returned to his courtyard. After conquering 3 5th-rank tribes, Yi Chen received an unexpected surprise. In the storage ring of the leader of the Black Mountain Tribe, there was a fantasy character. After discussing it with Lan Yu, she agreed to let Yi Chen keep it. However, if she wanted to see it, Yi Chen couldn't refuse. As his mind entered the strange space of the character, Yi Chen saw a figure practicing a dreamlike sword art. This sword art even made Yi Chen hallucinate. Yi Chen, who had almost lost himself in the sword art, turned pale with fright. His omniscient nature had enough changes, and this fantasy character sword art had even more changes. It was to the extent that one's mind couldn't deduce what was real. Mortal world-killing fist turns complicated into simple, and the fantasy character sword art makes people hallucinate. It's just as frightening. As the days passed, Yi Chen gained some understanding of the character's essence and began to try merging it into omniscient nature. He believed that once he merged it, it would become one of the most frightening supreme sword arts. Even the tyrant sword style would be inferior to it. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed, and they were getting closer and closer to the center of the wild god continent. On this day, Yi Chen finally merged the character's essence into his omniscient nature. As soon as he threw out a sword attack, a dreamy sword light spread out like a bubble. As long as one entered the sword light bubble, they would be affected by the illusion. The most frightening thing was that it was not a soul illusion, but a deeper illusion. Therefore, no matter how powerful one's soul was, one would not be able to break through it. Only with a powerful heart power could one escape from the illusion. Let's call it the illusion sword style. Right now, there were already 2 completed sword movements in the 5-element sword arts, which were the tyrant sword style and the illusion sword style. Among the space-time sword arts, the burial sword art was slightly weaker. However, it could be used to deal with warriors who were not familiar with the space-time profound. Sometimes, it might even be more useful than the tyrant sword style and the illusion sword style. Chapter 1340. Soon, another half a year passed, and they finally arrived at the central border of the Wild's God continent. Lan Yu, why are you wearing a mask? Yi Chen saw that Lan Yu was wearing a black mask. This mask not only blocked Lan Yu's aura, but even Lan Yu's figure was slightly blurred by the mask. He could only vaguely guess that she was a woman. I have some enemies here. If they recognize me, the Eternal Tribe will be in big trouble. Lan Yu explained. Yi Chen smiled faintly. Why do I feel that you don't want everyone to see your appearance? It seems that you are quite famous here. Isn't it better to keep a secret? Lan Yu glared at Yi Chen. Okay, sure. Then tell me what this place is. Yi Chen asked. Lan Yu looked around and said, this should be the Xiyin Plain in the central part of the Wild's God continent. There is only one level 7 tribe in the Xiyin Plain, and the rest are all level 6 tribes. As long as you are careful and don't be too arrogant here, you should not be targeted by a level 7 tribe. A level 7 tribe had a legendary supremacy. Whether it was a legendary supremacy relying on a divine artifact or a legendary supremacy themselves, it was equally terrifying. The former had powerful attacks, while the latter had no shortcomings. Of course, if the latter also had a divine artifact, it would be even more terrifying. In short, the Eternal Tribe could not afford to provoke a level 7 tribe. Since they had just arrived, the Eternal Tribe naturally had to keep a low profile. They chose the border of the Xiyin Plain. I'm done. Your illusory sword style is too abnormal. Outside the Eternal Tribe, Yi Chen and Lan Yu had just finished exchanging pointers. Lan Yu looked very depressed. Since joining the Eternal Tribe, she would spar with Yi Chen every once in a while. At first, Yi Chen only had the Overlord sword style, so she could still put up a fight. Later, she completely comprehended the word break and was evenly matched with Yi Chen. But recently, Yi Chen created another illusory sword style, which immediately suppressed her. Your illusory moonblade is also not bad. Yi Chen smiled. He had created the illusory sword style, and the opponent had also created the illusory moonblade. However, the opponent's illusory moonblade had not reached grand completion, and there was a big gap between it and the illusory sword style. Far from it. The word illusory is more difficult to comprehend than the word break and overlord. It will take at least 2 or 3 years to reach grand completion. Before meeting Yi Chen, Lan Yu was very confident in her comprehensive ability. But now, she finally understood what it meant by there would always be someone better than her. The Divine Fire Tribe was the only level 7 tribe in the Xiyin Plain. As a level 7 tribe, they naturally occupied the best resources in the Xiyin Plain. To the east of the Divine Fire Tribe was a vast sea of stars. There were countless treasures in the Sea of Stars, which was controlled by the level 8 tribe, Xinghai Tribe. To the north of the Divine Fire Tribe was a Primeval Forest with countless fierce beasts. If you were lucky, you might be able to hunt some tame fierce beasts. To the south of the Divine Fire Tribe, which was the center of the Xiyin Plain, there was a dangerous place called the Divine Fire Cave. The Divine Fire Cave was an underground world with many layers. Each layer contained a large number of fire attribute treasures, such as metals, elixirs, and even divine stones and a large number of supreme weapons. The Divine Fire Cave was guarded by the experts of the Divine Fire tribe. If you wanted to enter, you needed to pay a Divine Fire Supreme Order. The Divine Fire Supreme Order was a token refined by the Divine Fire tribe. The only way to exchange for a token was with a supreme weapon. A level 1 supreme weapon could be exchanged for 2 Divine Fire Supreme Orders, a level 2 could be exchanged for 5, a level 3 could be exchanged for 10, a level 4 could be exchanged for 20, and a level 5 could be exchanged for 50. Many Supremes who entered the Divine Fire Cave made a fortune and obtained many treasures and supreme weapons. Of course, there were also many Supremes who never came out after entering. Their supreme weapons and wealth were naturally left in the Divine Fire Cave. In terms of danger index, the Divine Fire Cave belonged to 3 stars. 1 star corresponded to ordinary Supremes, 2 stars corresponded to powerful Supremes, and 3 stars corresponded to Super Supremes. This didn't mean that there was no danger for Super Supremes in the Divine Fire Cave, but it was relatively less dangerous and the chances of coming out alive were very high. If one was unlucky, not to mention elementary Supremes, even quasi-legendary Supremes would be in danger. The Divine Fire tribe was huge, and it was like a city. The outer perimeter was protected by tall city walls, and one could only enter through the city gates unless one wanted to break through the Divine Fire tribe's formation. In the Divine Fire tribe's northern city, there was a tall pagoda. This pagoda was called the Divine Fire Supreme Pagoda, and it was the place to exchange for the Divine Fire Supreme Medallion. On this day, Yi Chen and Lan Yu came to the Divine Fire tribe to exchange for some Divine Fire Supreme medallions. This broadsword is a 2nd grade supreme weapon. It can be exchanged for 5 Divine Fire Supreme medallions. The red-robed elder looked at the supreme broadsword that Yi Chen took out and said, "All right, let's exchange." Yi Chen nodded. This supreme broadsword was obtained by Yi Chen after he killed the Golden Sand tribe's 3rd elder, Jin Hu. At the same time, he also obtained a supreme armor. However, the supreme armor was very useful, so he didn't plan to exchange for it. "This is your Divine Fire Supreme Medallion." The red-robed old man sheathed his great blade and handed over 5 fiery red tokens to Yi Chen. The workmanship of these tokens was exquisite, and they emitted a scorching aura. There was a fiery dragon pattern flowing on top of them. After leaving the Divine Fire Supreme Pagoda, Lan Yu said, "The Divine Fire tribe has a Divine Fire restaurant. The meat and dishes there are very delicious. It's very famous in the central part of the continent. I'll treat you. You should have to pay, right?" Yi Chen asked. Lan Yu said, "Of course. Starting from the 6th grade tribes start to coin their own currency. For example, the Divine Fire tribe's currency is Divine Fire coin, and below it is Fire coin. This is used internally. If outsiders want to exchange for Divine Fire coins, they can either use yuan stones or treasures. Of course, they can also use supreme weapons. In the Divine Fire tribe, 1 million yuan stones can be exchanged for 1 Divine Fire coin. Although the Divine Fire continent's yuan qi was rich, it still required yuan stones to cultivate. However, under Life and Death realm, yuan stones were not very useful. Absorbing the yuan qi of the world was enough for them to maintain the fastest cultivation speed. A single meal in the Divine Fire restaurant cost Lan Yu more than 300 Divine Fire coins, which was equivalent to more than 300 million yuan stones. The two had a supreme banquet, and the meat was all supreme beast meat. Needless to say, the taste was extremely good. At least, Yi Chen had never eaten such delicious meat. Unfortunately, it was too expensive. A single meal cost more than 300 million yuan stones, and the meat on the table was only about 1% of the supreme beast meat. Most of the customers in the restaurant were from other tribes, so the business was very good. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the two left the Divine Fire tribe and rushed toward the Divine Fire cave. In the distance, the two saw a beam of fiery red light shooting into the horizon. It was the entrance to the Divine Fire cave. 1 Divine Fire Supreme token per person. Whoever dares to barge in will be killed without mercy. The ones guarding the entrance of the Divine Fire cave were the experts of the Divine Fire tribe. The leader had sharp eyes and was clearly a quasi-legendary sovereign expert. Behind him, there were 2 peak super sovereigns and 6 high-level super sovereigns. With such a lineup, not to mention a lone sovereign, even if a level 6 tribe came to force their way in, they wouldn't have an easy time. Chapter 1341. That's the Divine Fire Tribe's Raging Blaze Hall's Hall Master, Hua Wubian. The Divine Fire Tribe has a total of 3 halls, namely the Raging Blaze Hall, Sacred Fire Hall, and Warfire Hall. Each hall's Hall Master is a quasi-legendary sovereign. The 2 beside him are the Raging Blaze Hall's Vice Hall Masters, while the other 6 are Raging Blaze Hall Elders. The elites of the Raging Blaze Hall are all here. Lan Yu whispered to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded slightly. If the Raging Blaze Hall was so powerful, it wasn't hard to imagine how powerful the Divine Fire Tribe was. It was impossible for a 6th-rank tribe to fight against a 7th-rank tribe. After handing over 2 Divine Flame Supreme tokens, Yi Chen and Lan Yu entered the Divine Fire Cave. The first layer was a fiery red world of lava. The temperature was extremely high. Even 1,000 suns wouldn't be this high. There aren't any treasures on the first layer. Let's go straight to the 5th layer. Lan Yu seemed to be very familiar with the place as she led Yi Chen to the next floor. Soon, the 2 arrived at the 6th layer. The 6th layer was no longer fiery red, but light blue. It looked a bit cold, but the temperature here was 100 times higher than the first layer. So hot. Yi Chen felt his sword energy was slowly being consumed. One had to know that sword energy wouldn't be consumed in the first layer. It's fine here. Once we reach the 9th layer, we have to put up an energy barrier. Lan Yu said. How many layers does the Divine Fire Cave have? Yi Chen asked. Lan Yu said, I know there are 11 layers, but I'm not too sure about the exact number. A long time ago, there was only 1 layer. Later on, someone discovered the 2nd layer, then the 3rd layer, the 4th layer. Maybe someone has already discovered the 12th and 13th layer. But as long as they aren't stupid, they wouldn't tell anyone. The newly discovered places have the most treasures. The 7th level of the Divine Fire Acupoint was blue in color. The 8th layer was dark blue, the 9th layer was dark blue, the 10th layer was light blue, and the 11th layer was azure. In the azure world, flames were like lightning, flashing. Wherever they flashed, there would be a loud bang. Without exaggeration, even a powerful sovereign would be turned into ashes by the azure flames. Yi Chen and Lan Yu put up an energy barrier. Otherwise, if they were hit by the azure flames, their energy would be consumed very quickly. Crackle. A green flame flashed towards Yi Chen. Yi Chen didn't even bother to look at it. The speed of the green flame was too fast. Even if he dodged it, he would still be in a sorry state. So, it was better to just ignore it. Dang. The powerful impact caused Yi Chen to stumble. What was going on? Yi Chen turned around just in time to see an axe bounce away. Supreme axe. Who would have thought that there would be a supreme axe wrapped within the green flames? The axe's entire body was scarlet red, and it was obvious that it had been burnt red. You're quite lucky. Lan Yu teased. Let's hope we have more luck. With regards to supreme weapons, Yi Chen held the attitude that the more, the better. There were quite a few honorable ones on the 11th floor. In just a short while, the 2 of them had already encountered 5 honorable ones. However, it was clear that all of them were very cautious and avoided them from afar. The 11th level of the Divine Fire Cave was extremely vast. If it wasn't for the fact that this place had formed its own space, the entire Shein Plain might not have been able to cover it. The 2 of them flew aimlessly. When they noticed something strange, they came down to take a look. Rumble. The 2 of them were just about to pass by a magma lake. All of a sudden, the magma lake below instantly evaporated, and the ground cracked. Immediately after, pieces of inky green crystals flew everywhere. Poochie. A small part of Yi Chen's protective sword energy was penetrated, and a small piece of inky green crystal was stuck on it. Yi Chen stretched out his hand to grab it. Poochie. The crystal was extremely hot, and inky green flames darted out, instantly enveloping Yi Chen in flames. Scatter. His sword energy erupted, and the inky green flames were extinguished. What crystal is this? Yi Chen was startled. He felt that this inky green crystal was not simple. The temperature of the flames was thousands of times higher than the green flames on the 11th floor. Divine Fire Stone. Lan Yu exclaimed. Hearing this, Yi Chen looked at Lan Yu. Lan Yu explained, Divine Fire Stone is a kind of fire-attributed energy crystal. Legend has it that it contains a trace of the desolate god's power, which is why its temperature is extremely high. Divine Firestone has many uses, and its biggest use is to forge supreme weapons. Some supreme materials are very hard to melt, but as long as they are burned by the flames of the Divine Firestone, they will melt in a short while. With enough Divine Firestone, forging supreme weapons will be many times easier. In addition, Divine Firestone has a great effect on refining the body. The flames of the Divine Firestone can burn away the impurities in the body, making the body stronger and purer. Can Divine Fire Stone upgrade a rank 8 spirit body to rank 9 spirit body? Yi Chen asked. Lan Yu glanced at Yi Chen. Of course it can. It's just that the process is more painful and dangerous. You need to use the power of the Divine Fire Stone bit by bit. You can't use it too fiercely all at once. It's fine if it can. Yi Chen sighed with emotion. It was really a case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless searching, and finding it without any effort at all. Yi Chen and Lan Yu didn't care about those divine fire stones that were flying around. Their eyes were fixed on the crack below, where traces of dark green light were shining. Finally, the ground stopped trembling, and a sharp point emerged from the crack. The sharp point was inlaid with dense dark green divine fire stones. Collect the divine fire stones. You can't use any energy, or the energy in the divine fire stone will explode. Its temperature isn't very high, Lan Yu said and removed the energy barrier. She walked to the side of the sharp point and began to collect the divine fire stones. Yi Chen also walked up to collect. As expected, after removing the protective sword energy, the temperature of the divine fire stones wasn't high. Of course, this was only relative. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces. Soon, Yi Chen had collected over 100 divine fire stones. As the two collected the divine fire stones on the sharp point, there weren't many left. Divine fire stones? Not far away, a beam of light flew over, and a brown-robed old man was wrapped in the light. Yi Chen and Lan Yu tilted their heads and looked over. Not only did the two not slow down, but they also sped up. Stop. My divine fire stones. The brown-robed old man's heart was bleeding. The most precious treasure in the divine fire cave was the divine fire stones besides the divine stone. The divine stone depended on one's luck. Although the divine fire stone wasn't as rare as the divine stone, it still required a lot of luck to obtain. Some people couldn't get a piece in their lifetime, while others might get one on their first visit. The brown-robed old man had bought 3 divine fire stones from the divine fire tribe last time, which cost him a lot. This time, he finally saw so many, but he wasn't the first to see them. Either leave the divine fire stones, or leave your lives. The brown-robed old man was a quasi-legend supremacy. He stared at Yi Chen and Lan Yu fiercely. Yi Chen, be careful. This guy is an expert from another level 7 tribe, the Hidden Fog tribe. He has the strength of a quasi-legend supremacy. Don't underestimate him. Lan Yu secretly reminded Yi Chen. Yi Chen replied, I haven't fought a quasi-legend supremacy yet. Let's join forces and fight him. Okay, beat him to a pulp. Lan Yu said heroically. Chapter 1342. It seems like you want to stay alive. The brown-robed elder's face sank as he secretly condensed desolate element. You can't make us stay alive. If she was alone, Lan Yu would naturally be afraid of her opponent. A true quasi-legendary supremacy was different from them. Their moves were all Great Success Supreme Martial Arts or attacks that could rival Great Success Supreme Martial Arts. She only had Void Break Blade and Tyrant Blade Slash, which were Great Success Supreme Martial Arts. She still had a long way to go before her illusionary Moonblade reached great success. She might be able to fight for a short period of time, but in a prolonged battle, she would definitely lose. However, she wasn't alone. Beside her was Yi Chen. Yi Chen's illusory sword style was definitely one of the most powerful moves among the great success supreme martial arts. In that case, I'd like to see what moves you two have. The brown-robed elder roared as he rotated his palms. Layers of white waves rushed towards Yi Chen and Lan Yu. As the white waves appeared, white water vapor appeared in the surroundings. It turned out that the temperature of the 11th level of the divine fire acupoint was extremely high. The palm force of the brown-robed elder leaned towards water, which stimulated the high temperature and produced a large amount of steam. Instantly, the steam emitted a green light and drowned the surroundings. The three felt as though they were in a sea of fog. They could hear the rolling waves. It was the palm force of the brown-robed elder. Tyrant Blade Slash. Tyrant Blade Style. Lan Yu's Tyrant Blade Slash was extremely similar to Yi Chen's Tyrant Blade Style. However, one was a saber while the other was a sword. When the saber and sword slashed at the white waves, the domineering saber aura and sword aura combined temporarily. Rumble. The white waves rolled back and sent the brown-robed elder flying. Preposterous. The brown-robed elder was furious. He could tell that he wouldn't be able to win if they fought head-on. The two of them could fight against a quasi-legendary supremacy if they joined forces. Foggy soaring art. The figure of the brown-robed elder turned blurry and eventually turned into a dense fog. He shuttled through the sea of fog at an extremely fast speed. Disappeared. Lan Yu frowned. Yi Chen's eyes flashed as he suddenly waved his sword to the right. It was just one sword, but it seemed as though thousands of swords had gathered together. Spacetime sword art, Death Cleave. That was close. At the critical moment, the brown-robed old man merged with the fog, and the sword chi directly passed through the fog, unable to hurt him at all. The terrifying thing about the fog soaring technique was that it could turn one's body into fog. Unless it was directly hit, it would be very difficult to break. Just now, Yi Chen's attack range was wide, but unfortunately, it was not high enough. Reverse blade wheel. Lan Yu's body spun, and circles of saber light spread out in a spiral shape. The returning saber wheel was known for its powerful after-effects. Each point was the most lethal point. With Yi Chen by her side, Lan Yu could use the returning saber wheel without any restrictions, forcing the brown-robed old man out. 1 breath. 3 breaths. 5 breaths. It was unknown how many layers of the huge spiral blade light had circled in all directions. Not to mention the brown-robed old man, even Yi Chen was a little bit worried. He was sure that once he was hit by the spiral blade light, his body would definitely be cut into a skeleton, unless his defense could be enhanced to the point of resisting the attack of a quasi-legendary supreme master. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The spiral blade light became more and more concentrated, and a strong blade wind erupted, blowing away a lot of the surrounding fog. In the thin fog, a human figure slowly appeared, and it was the brown-robed old man. Damn, what kind of blade art is this? The brown-robed old man didn't think much of the returning saber wheel at first, but later on, he realized that the strength of the returning saber wheel was increasing very quickly, and it was no less than a great accomplishment supreme martial art. If it was one-on-one, he naturally wouldn't let Lan Yu continuously increase the power of the returning saber wheel. But now, he was fighting 1 against 2. Do you think I'm afraid of them? Whirlpool transforming dragon palm. A whirlpool gradually formed with the brown-robed old man as the center, and when the spiral blade light touched the whirlpool, it was immediately sucked in. Soon, the whirlpool became a huge monster, and it was enough to affect the use of the returning saber wheel. When Lan Yu stopped using the returning saber wheel, the brown-robed old man was completely wrapped by the black energy ball, and the black energy ball was expanding rapidly, and it had already expanded to a larger area than the attack of the returning saber wheel. A terrifying gravitational force acted on Lan Yu and Yi Chen, and it was trying to suck them into the black energy ball. Even if they used the back of their heads to think, they knew that once they were sucked in, it would really be disastrous. Let's work together. Lan Yu and Yi Chen once again used the Tyrant Blade Chop and the Tyrant Sword Style, and the overbearing blade aura and sword aura suddenly combined and bombarded the black energy ball. Unfortunately, the black energy ball had already formed, and just like the previous returning saber wheel, its power had accumulated to an extremely terrifying level, and even if it didn't reach the level of legendary Supreme Master, it was not far from it. Retreat. Since they couldn't break the black energy ball, the two could only retreat. They didn't believe that this black energy ball could expand without limit. However, the black energy ball's gravitational force was too strong, and the two's flying speed was very slow. Sometimes, they would fly a bit, and then be pulled back a bit. It was extremely strenuous. Go to hell. Just as the two thought, the black energy ball indeed couldn't expand without limit. If it could, who could be its opponent? However, it was enough to deal with two experts who had just stepped into the quasi-legendary Supreme Master realm. Rumble, the surface of the black energy ball undulated, and soon, the entire black energy ball turned into a black dragon, pouncing towards Yi Chen and Lan Yu. The black dragon's body was incomparably heavy, but when it moved, its speed was astonishing. The 11th layer of the divine fire acupoint seemed to be unable to bear its might, and it slightly trembled. Lan Yu, come here. Yi Chen grabbed Lan Yu's hand, bringing her into his protective range. Next, Yi Chen's heart force, sword energy, and soul force all erupted as he displayed the 5 elements sword art, Extreme Prosperity Decline. Although Extreme Prosperity Decline hadn't reached major completion, it was still Yi Chen's strongest defensive sword art. At this moment, any offensive sword art was useless. Only a defensive sword art could protect him slightly. The black dragon crazily tore at the multicolored light ball. Inside the multicolored light ball, Yi Chen's hands could no longer be seen. The speed at which he swung the heavenly sword became faster and faster, surpassing one limit after another. Under the pressure of life and death, Yi Chen's heart force reached a higher level, and the defensive power of Extreme Prosperity Decline reached a new peak. Rumble. However, the black dragon's power was too great. The multicolored light ball was still shattered. The black dragon bit onto Yi Chen's body and swooped down together with Lan Yu. A deep mark was plowed on the ground. It was unknown how far away the black dragon's power was before it gradually dissipated. In a huge pit, Yi Chen and Lan Yu were hugging each other. Their clothes were torn, and they were half naked. On Yi Chen's chest, there was a big hole. This was the injury caused by the black dragon. So powerful. Hugging Lan Yu, Yi Chen slowly stood up. The big hole in his chest was quickly healed under the nourishment of the inextinguishable power. He actually didn't die. The brown-robed elder was very surprised. His whirlpool dragon palm had accumulated a lot of power. It was enough to injure a quasi-legendary supremacy. A peak super supremacy would most likely die from it. Of course, if he encountered a quasi-legendary supremacy, the other party wouldn't let him accumulate power and would have already broken this move. This was the difference in strength. How could he know that Yi Chen's immortal sword body could resist a peak super supremacy's attack? Plus, he had used the 5 elements sword art to offset a part of the black dragon's power. The true destructive power of the black dragon didn't exceed his limit. Chapter 1343. Thank you. Lan Yu's face was a bit red. At this critical moment, she wanted to take out her courtyard with layers upon layers of arrays. With the courtyard's defensive power, not to mention the brown-robed old man who was only a quasi-legendary supreme expert, even a legendary supreme expert wouldn't be able to do anything to the two of them. However, who would have thought that Yi Chen would actually grab her hand and pull her into his protective range, causing her to be momentarily dazed. It was precisely this moment that she lost the opportunity to take out her courtyard. Fortunately, Yi Chen's defense was strong enough. I can't take such risks in the future, Lan Yu thought. Can you still fight? Yi Chen asked Lan Yu. Of course. Lan Yu's body flashed, and a set of clothes appeared. Let's take turns to attack. Don't give him the chance to use this move. Yi Chen was naturally afraid of this palm technique. This palm technique could absorb other people's energy and turn it into an attack. If he didn't absorb the power of returning blade wheel, tyrant blade chop, and tyrant sword style, the palm just now would have lost at least 70% of its power. Yes. Lan Yu nodded. She didn't expect the opponent to have such an abnormal palm technique. Go. The two of them attacked the brown-robed old man from the left and right. Good timing. The brown-robed old man could see that Yi Chen's defense was stronger, so he took the lead and attacked Lan Yu. His palm struck out, and the power was boundless. Splendor of youth. Lan Yu also had a defensive blade technique. In fact, with her speed, she could completely avoid it, but she wanted to create an opportunity for Yi Chen. Rumble. Lan Yu, who was wrapped in petals, was like a reef, enduring the impact of the monstrous palm energy. Suddenly, the petals bloomed, and a peerless blade light slashed at the brown-robed old man. It was the void-breaking blade. The brown-robed old man frowned and smashed the blade energy with one palm. Illusion sword style. At this moment, Yi Chen used his strongest sword technique, illusion sword style. A bubble of sword light spread and enveloped the brown-robed old man. In an instant, the brown-robed old man felt that he was surrounded by sword light, as if he had come to a world of sword light. Layer after layer of sword light was slashed, and the brown-robed old man's arms went numb. There were too many sword light, and they were endless. Not good, it's an illusion. By the time the brown-robed old man came to his senses, Yi Chen's sword had already pierced into the brown-robed old man's chest. Poochie, how could the brown-robed old man's supreme armor block the piercing of the heaven sword? It was directly pierced through. Scram. The brown-robed old man was horrified and sent Yi Chen flying with a palm strike. Who would have thought that just as Yi Chen was blown away, Lan Yu would rush over and use the incomplete Mirage Moonblade. If it was before, the Mirage Moonblade might not be effective. After all, the illusion of the Mirage Moonblade was much weaker than the illusory sword style. However, at this time, the brown-robed old man was injured by the sky sword and his origin was damaged. Suddenly, another Mirage Moonblade came, and he was heavily injured again. The blue blade chi cut off the brown-robed old man's left arm. I'm going to die from anger. The brown-robed elder went crazy. He, a dignified quasi-legendary supreme being, was actually injured by the hands of two juniors. What shocked him the most was that both of their weapons were sage artifacts. Sage artifacts contained special powers. It was fine if they didn't hit him, but once they did, it would be extremely difficult for him to recover. Don't give him a chance to breathe. Yi Chen rubbed his body and attacked again. This time, it was the sword burial art. Next, it was Lan Yu's tyrant blade chop. The two of them took turns to attack the brown-robed old man, not giving him a chance to recover. If you were beaten back, I would attack. If I was beaten back, you would attack. Although it was just a few moves, the two of them cooperated seamlessly. For a moment, the heavily injured brown-robed old man was completely suppressed. He didn't even have the slightest chance to turn the tables. If this continues, I will be beaten to death. Thinking of this, the brown-robed old man disregarded the fact that he was wide open and wanted to use the Vortex Dragon Palm. As long as he used the Vortex Dragon Palm, the two of them wouldn't be able to injure him. However, Yi Chen didn't give the brown-robed old man any chance and attacked with the sword burial art. Although the power of the sword burial art couldn't compare to the tyrant sword style and the illusion sword style, the power of space and time could slow down the brown-robed old man's speed and reaction. On the battlefield, there were countless changes. If one was slow, the others wouldn't be. Lan Yu's void-shattering blade hit the brown-robed old man and sent him flying. The supreme armor on his body was tattered and had almost no defensive effect. Aqua light armor. The brown-robed old man was a quasi-legendary supreme being after all. Although he was enraged by the repeated injuries, he didn't lose his mind. He immediately used a supreme defensive martial art, Aqua light armor. The defense of the Aqua light armor wasn't any weaker than the supreme armor. It was roughly equivalent to the defense of a rank 4 supreme armor. Of course, the supreme armor didn't need much power to maintain, but the Aqua light armor was equivalent to using a supreme martial art continuously. The consumption rate was thousands of times higher. Wait for me. With the protection of the aqua-light armor, the brown-robed old man's speed soared. "Where do you think you're going?" Lan Yu, who had comprehended the essence of the word line, chased after him. She slashed a few times on the brown-robed old man's body. However, she was quickly repelled by the brown-robed old man's palm. It wasn't that the brown-robed old man couldn't beat the two of them. It was just that his injuries were too severe. The more they fought, the weaker he became. Yi Chen's speed wasn't as fast as Lan Yu. Seeing that Lan Yu was repelled, he gave up the chase. He escaped. Lan Yu was a little discouraged. Yi Chen sighed. Even if a quasi-legendary supreme is injured, he isn't someone to be trifled with. It seems like we have to re-evaluate the strength of quasi-legendary supreme beings. Ian, if it wasn't for your illusion sword style injuring him, it would be very difficult for us to beat him. Lan Yu nodded. After repelling the brown-robed old man, the two continued to explore the 11th layer of the divine fire cave. Flame iron. 9 turbid gold. Turbid sky stone. Those who could come to the 11th layer of the divine fire cave were all experts among experts, and experts were destined to be few in number. With fewer people coming, there would naturally be more treasures left behind. It all depended on one's luck. In just half a month, Yi Chen had obtained 3 kinds of supreme metals. Each of them was extremely precious and could be used to forge level 3 supreme weapons. Among them, the most precious was the 9 turbid gold. This kind of metal could be used to forge level 4 supreme weapons. Turbid skystone was not inferior to the 9 turbid gold, but it was a pity that it was too little. It was only the size of a courtyard. Adding the azure star iron that he had obtained before entering the wilderness god continent, Yi Chen had a total of 4 kinds of supreme metals. Among them, the azure star iron was the largest. It was a metal planet with a diameter of several thousand miles. The flame iron was the second largest, which was only a dozen miles in size. The 9 turbid gold and the turbid skystone added together were only half a mile in size. Yi Chen planned to learn the supreme swordsmithing technique when he had the time. "Yi Chen, look, there seems to be a spatial fluctuation over there." On this day, Lan Yu and Yi Chen both discovered an obscure spatial fluctuation. "Let's go and take a look," Yi Chen said. In a short while, the two arrived at the source of the spatial fluctuation. The source was in the magma lake. For some unknown reason, the magma lake was boiling violently. The spatial fluctuation was coming from the lake, and it was getting more and more obvious. "Zi Chen, do you want to die?" A cold voice came out. "You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,